across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000. Let's do it. Or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Friday, April the 24th. Here's what's coming up. Why are we letting in thousands and thousands of undocumented young men from far-off countries who break into Britain illegally? Why is everyone else who arrives from abroad required to show their passport? But if you climb aboard an unregistered small boat and cross the channel unlawfully, no passport required. After the horror in Brighton, a poor woman brutally raped by 3 migrants living at our expense at an asylum seeker hotel. This has got to stop. Why is this government continuing to pursue policies that lead to sex crimes and murders all over the UK? Isn't it time to stop this madness? 0344 499 1000. In other news, Donald Trump effectively tells Prince Harry to shut the hell up. Donald saying that he speaks more for the UK than the Prince does. I agree with that. Donald's outburst coming after Harry, the runaway royal, pitched up in Ukraine and delivered a speech on international affairs way above his intellectual pay grade. The dim Duke casting a cloud over his father, the King's state visit to America on Monday. How dare he? Outrageous behaviour by a thick guy who seems to think, he actually said this to ITV today, that he was born to do this. Born to lecture us on matters he doesn't understand. Shut up, Harry. Go back to California and smoke some more dope. 0344 499 1000. Plus, pressure grows on Attorney General Richard Hermer amid more revelations about his role in the legal witch hunt against military veterans who served in Iraq. And our man in Washington, Harry Cole, joins me later to reflect on Keir Starmer's week ahead from hell. He's got a lot going on, trust me, and it's not just in Westminster. I'll tell you all about that later. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday afternoon together, and we've got a lot to get through. Let's not waste a second. Let's go straight over to my first guest. He is former Labour MP, now Reform UK, Simon Danczuk. Welcome, Simon.
Good to be with you, Kevin.
Let's talk about this dreadful rape that we learned about yesterday. Now, the nation, let me tell you, Simon, I know the nation is pretty traumatised by what we heard, what we learned yesterday. 2 Egyptians and an Iranian, all migrants, all staying in an asylum seeker hotel at our expense. They raped this poor 33-year-old woman in the early hours of October the 4th last year. They'd only arrived on a small boat illegally a few months earlier in June last year. They rape her. They laughed at her. They spat at her. They treated her like an animal. She said, they ruined my life. The nation is traumatised by this partly because one of them, we learned, after they were found guilty of this heinous, horrific crime, bear in mind, not the first time asylum seekers have been found guilty of similar crimes. One of them, we learned, was on the run from Egypt. He was a murderer. So he got into this country, no questions asked. You know, how much longer is this government going to allow these people to just come into the country? As I said in my monologue, everyone else who arrives from abroad, all foreigners, in fact, British people as well, when you arrive here, quite rightly, it's a matter of national security. You're supposed to show your passport. If you don't have a passport, you're not allowed into the country. Now, there's a way round that. get yourself onto an illegal small boat, come across the channel unlawfully, break into this country in a criminal way, and then you'll be allowed in without a passport, no questions asked. We don't know anything about you. You're a young man of sexually active age, thousands and thousands and thousands of them arriving every year, and we just let them roam free. No one is suggesting that they're all like this. Of course, the vast majority, in my view, they're just economic migrants. They're chancers trying to make a better life for themselves. I don't particularly approve of it, but no one is saying that all migrants are evil rapists, but too many of them are, and we found that out in Brighton. If nothing else, Simon, given that the nation is traumatised by this, why haven't we heard a single word from this excuse of a Prime Minister of ours or this excuse of a cabinet from ours? Not a single word, because they were too busy boasting about their ridiculous 662 million quid deal with France. Shabana Mahmoud over on northern France, she picked the wrong day to start shouting and screaming about her fabulous new deal, didn't she? Because this deal, Simon, will not make a one iota of difference. They will continue to come. Still they will come. Still they will come. What we need to do is to stop letting them in. If nothing else, detain them. Don't let them walk free. They haven't showed us their passports because they didn't have them. Something has got to happen. This must be the tipping point. Surely we have to change the way we deal with these migrants. Wouldn't you agree?
I completely agree, Kevin. The British public are right to be furious about this attack and all the others that have taken place. 70,000 illegal immigrants have come into Britain since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister 2 years ago. He came in on a promise of smashing the gangs. I mean, nothing further from the truth. It's quite the opposite. He's letting more people in than ever before. And the truth is that there are, and this is proven, terrorists, extremists, rapists, murderers, all coming. Some of them 70,000 fit that bill. That's the bad news here. That's a really awful. We're letting the dregs of other people's societies into Britain. That's the truth of it. And what we need is a government that will turn the boats around, that will stop these boats. It cannot continue like this. The British public are absolutely right to be furious. Let
me just bear with me. I'm just going to read a few. This is just a sort of slice of the action, if you like. Okay, this is what happens when you just yet let young men of sexually active age from very different cultures, from the Middle East, from sub-Saharan Africa, from Afghanistan. If you let people in from these kind of cultures, by the way, most of these areas that they come from, young men aren't even allowed to look at a woman's ankle, let alone the rest of their bodies. So when they get here, they are assailed, if you like, by a very different form of women. Women here, of course, are quite rightly allowed to wear whatever the hell they want. It becomes too tempting for some of these guys who have never even been allowed to look upon a woman's ankle, let alone anything else. So it's quite clear that their cultural backgrounds cause all sorts of problems. So Sadiq Niksad, 29, entered the UK illegally on a small boat in 2023, was immediately billeted at a nice hotel in Falkirk in Scotland, 4-star hotel. Within minutes of arriving at his new luxury accommodation, courtesy of us, paid for by us, he strolled out into the town, found a 15-year-old vulnerable local girl, took her behind a pub and viciously raped her. When he got 9 years in jail, he lost his temper in court. His defence was nobody told him that we had such a different attitude to women here than they do in Afghanistan. Do you see where I'm coming from? Hadish Kabatu, you remember him. He's the migrant sex offender from Ethiopia who was staying at the Bell Hotel in Essex, the famous Bell Hotel in Essex, you know, who just strolled out into the town, assaulted a 14-year-old girl, and a woman who came to her assistance, he assaulted her as well. He went to jail and then was deported deported to Ethiopia. Mehmet Ogur, 27. He was living at the Holiday Inn in Tamworth in Staffordshire. He forced himself on his victim last January and later sent her a message to say he was sorry. Nevertheless, that asylum seeker was jailed for 7 years, raping an 18-year-old British woman. Let's not forget the case of Rhiannon White up in Wolverhampton, that receptionist at a asylum seeker hotel, making her way home. One of the migrants staying in that hotel followed her and stabbed her 28 times to death with a screwdriver and was filmed dancing in ecstasy as she died. Here's Amin Abedi Mofrad, an asylum seeker staying in Reading, attacked a 15-year-old girl close to the Westgate shopping centre in Oxford, February the 14th. 2024. He got found guilty of rape and was sentenced to a very long jail sentence. Then, of course, there were the two Afghan nationals who said they were both 17. Many people feel that they were older than that. Jan Jehanzeb and Isra Nazal. They followed a 15-year-old girl in Leamington Spa into a park and brutally raped her. They too are now serving a lengthy detention term of 10 years and 8 months in a youth centre, a youth detention centre. Many don't believe they were 17, but we don't have the documents because we never check these things. Afghan national Ahmad Mulakil found guilty of rape, abduction, sexual assault and taking an indecent video following an incident in Nuneaton in Warwickshire in 2025. He is doing 15 years in jail. And on the list goes. I've got a long list here, and this is just the tip of the rancid iceberg. This government essentially is following or pursuing policies that have turned them into rape enablers. They've got to stop this. They can't stop letting these people in, no questions asked.
I genuinely believe, and I don't say this lightly, Keir Starmer thinks that is a price worth paying for open borders. That's the reality of it. He believes in open borders. That's his philosophy. He doesn't believe in stopping these people. His worldview, this left-wing North London Labour view of how the world should work, is that these people have a right to come here because of colonialism and what's gone before. Let them in. I do believe that's his policy, because it can't be anything else, because he's letting more people in than any other Prime Minister. He has no intention of stopping these people coming into Britain, and it's British people, British families, British victims who are paying the price for this, isn't it? It's absolutely appalling. The sooner he goes, the sooner we might be closer to actually coming up with a solution to this.
Yeah, it's an absolute disgrace, and we will be sticking with this story throughout the show, of course. Let me know, folks, what you think should be done, and let me know, well, I'm going to second guess you, just how furious you are about this government's continuing policy to just let young foreign men into the country, no questions asked, about whom we know nothing. One of them, who commits rape, turns out to have been a murderer on the run from Egypt. I mean, that's it, isn't it? That is the worst thing I've ever heard. You've got to do something about it. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Before you go, Simon, let's get back to the relatively calm world of Westminster politics. A mega poll has revealed that unless Reform and the Tories merge, unite, get together, form a coalition before the next election, both of them on their own will be beaten by a mad mosaic of the left, the Lib Dems, Labour, of course, the Greens, the SNP, unless Farage and Badenoch settle their differences and form a pact. They're going to lose. That Reform can't win on their own and the Tories can't win on their own. And we have this kind of strange sort of performative thing from politicians, don't we? They always say this. No, there'll be no pact, no pact, no pact, no, absolutely not. and then at the last moment there is one. Who can forget when the Tories were so desperate they formed a pact, the most unlikely pact in political history, with the Lib Dems of all people. Do you think there will be a pact in the end, Simon?
Yeah, I do actually. This is really interesting research by Electoral Calculus, and I think it suggests that Reform will get 188 MPs, Conservatives 150 odd MPs. Labour will be down to, I think it's around 86 MPs according to this, and it's fairly advanced research, you know, which I can actually believe. I think Labour are in free fall, but it's interesting. I've been saying for a long time that there's likely to be, after the next general election, I think there's going to be a coalition, a centre-right coalition. And if there isn't, as this research suggests, you could easily end up with a coalition on the left, which would be Labour, Liberal Democrat, the Green Party, the SNP. I think that'd be disastrous for the country. So I think the centre-right parties will have to form a coalition. Now, whether they come up with a partnership before the election or not is got to be answered. But there's no doubt about it. I could imagine there being a centre-right coalition, Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage having to come together to create a government after the next general election, which, by the way, I think will be sooner than we realise.
Well, that would be good, certainly. I mean, these politicians are fond of saying country before party. If Farage and Badenoch do put country before party, then they're going to have to link up, because it will be, in my view, their patriotic duty to make sure that we don't end up with a mad mosaic left-wing coalition in which that lunatic Zach Polanski will be a senior cabinet secretary. We can't have that. So fingers crossed they do settle their differences and get together and win the next election between them. Last point from you. I'm sticking to national politics. We mustn't talk local politics. But Nigel Farage's given a big interview today. I thought it was very interesting. He's made the point, you know, we're very fond of saying this is a divided nation, divided by class, divided by all sorts of geopolitical factors, etc., etc. He says that as far as he's concerned, the big divide now, and I think there's a lot of sense in what he says, is those who work and those who don't work. This government has allowed so many people to be on benefits. 8 million people not working. 8 million people either not working or receiving benefits. Meanwhile, the rest of the hard-working British population have to fund the people who claim benefits, the people who don't work. I think he's right. I think it is the new divide, those who work and those who don't work, and it could be dissolved, that divide, if we had a government that just said, right, we're not going to give benefits to everyone else. No longer will you be able to get welfare for saying you're mildly anxious, that you've got mild anxiety. Yeah, Farage is right, isn't he, Simon?
He's absolutely right, and he gets this story across on the front of the Daily Mail this morning, quite rightly so, saying he's going to challenge those who are on benefits. And he's clearly talking about some who are on universal credit, some who are allegedly disabled because, as you point out, they have some mild depression or something similar. I mean, people are just signing themselves off effectively. There's no scrutiny of people being on benefits anymore. It's, 5-10 years ago, there were lots of hurdles that you would have to jump through to prove that you were unwell. But that just doesn't apply anymore. The Department for Work and Pensions just isn't doing its job. There's no checks and balances on this issue. And I think Farage is right to come out on this. After illegal immigration, I do think this is one of the big issues that Britain's facing.
Absolutely, Simon. Great to have you on the show, as always. Thank you for joining me. Simon Danchett there, former Labour MP, now Reform UK. Is Nigel Farage right? Benefits Britain, is it out of control? Is it time to turn the tap off, to stop giving everyone who says, oh, I'm slightly anxious, oh, well, have 300 quid a week, have a free car? Time to stop that, isn't it? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. What should we do about the migrant crisis? If I can put it this way, the migrant crisis really is a crisis now. I think we've reached serious crisis point after the Brighton rapes. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. What would you do? Back in a moment.
I hope I wouldn't have used that. Well, certainly I don't remember trying to get any job for my mates.
Can you get a job? Can you help get a job for ex's mates? But don't tell the Foreign Secretary.
I don't think it's completely surprising that the Prime Minister would be so sensitive about the way in which he was dealing with a member of his senior team, and particularly a Director of Communications who's in minute-by-minute contact with the media, that he would want that kept to a very, very tight group of people at the time.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I got a text from Margaret in Birmingham. She says, I know I send loads of text, but I absolutely love the show. Keep up the good work. And the reason I'm reading that out is to let you know, Margaret, you send me as many texts as you like. Love hearing from you. Right, let's get back to business. Let's go over to the former head of the UK Border Force. I believe he was in the studio personally yesterday, but he hasn't graced me with his presence. He is the great Tony Smith. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Kevin.
Now, fury is erupting as we speak over what we learnt yesterday. I guess what I want to ask you, I mean, you're a former senior immigration officer. You know about passports. How is it we've come to this point where everyone else who visits this country, Tony, has to show their passport? In fact, even Brits who go abroad, we have to show our passport when we come back. All foreigners come. It's a matter of national security. That's what passports are for. And except unless you get into an illegal small boat, cross the channel unlawfully, break into our country in a criminal act, then you don't need a passport and we just let you into the country, no questions asked. We don't know anything about you. And we really found out the effect of that yesterday, didn't we? Basically because there were three asylum seekers staying in an asylum seeker hotel at our expense who raped a poor 33-year-old woman in the most repulsive, disgusting, shocking way. That was bad enough, and then halfway through yesterday afternoon, when I was on air, we learned that one of them, the 20-year-old, who, by the way, I can't believe this fact, this is how he lost his virginity, raping that poor girl. The 20-year-old was on the run from Egypt. He was a murderer, a convicted murderer. That's what happens if you don't check who's coming into your country. This has got to stop, hasn't it?
Yeah, Kevin, if ever there was a case that demanded an investigation and an inquiry, then it's this one. You raise a number of questions here about what's happened here. I mean, first and foremost, I expect all of our sympathies go to the victim.
Of course.
And our congratulations to the police and the law enforcement officers for putting these people to justice and bringing them to justice and so on. But it does raise some very, very serious questions that you've just put to me in terms of, if this person is indeed wanted for murder in another country, then why was it that he was granted temporary admission by the Border Force when he arrived on a small boat? Now, I think you know as well as I do that when people come off small boats, we do screen them. Kevin, they are all taken to Manston under arrest. They are fingerprinted, they are photographed, and we do whatever checks we can do that are available to us to identify whether there is any adverse record. But I'm afraid there is no national global database of criminals. The Interpol database is only as good as the data that is uploaded to it by the national authority. So there are a very significant number of inquiries, it seems to me, that took place after this man was arrested for rape by the police that were not conducted by the Border Force when they arrived. And that's not to criticise the Border Force, because they are under immense pressure to clear people through Manston within 24 or at most 48 hours, Kevin.
Agreed.
And there is an ongoing legal challenge against the Home Office for damages, believe it or not, because we may have exceeded that 48-hour period when we were doing our damnedest to enable us to properly screen and vet people when we arrive. So I think there is a serious question here about what happened when he arrived, what checks were done, what checks were done afterwards, how did we find out this information, and why was it not made available to us at the border when he arrived? And I would very much like to see an investigation into this, potentially by the Independent Chief Inspector of Borders and Immigration, who has a team that does these sort of things, and a report back to us publicly so we can understand, Kevin, how was it and how is it that people are getting past our screening checks, and what more can we do when we get people like this turning up undocumented at our borders in order to ensure that they are not granted temporary admission into the UK until we have not just conducted a thorough risk assessment and all potential checks against their background, but also educated them, Kevin, in the way of life here, and that we are absolutely certain that they are not going to go on, or as certain as we can be, that they are not going to go on to commit crimes in this country before they are granted temporary admission. And I'm afraid we simply don't have the infrastructure or the legislation at the moment to do that.
One last point, Tony. I mean, in the ideal world, and I think this is what people are now demanding. I mean, these people, they break into our country illegally. Everything about their voyage from France is illegal. They are, in effect, criminals when they arrive here because they've broken our laws. We should be detaining them. Well, you know, as I say, what is the point of a passport system? Of course, a passport system, all countries have that. It's about national security. What is the point of Britain having a system of passports? If you visit this country, if you're a Brit returning from abroad, you must show your passport. But if you're a migrant from sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East or Afghanistan, and you come across illegally, you don't need a passport. If you turn up here without a passport, you're detained. That would not only prevent the horror in Brighton, it would also send a message to these migrants that there's not much point in you coming over because we're not going to let you roam free. That's half the reason they come. They know that pretty soon after they arrive here, they'll be in a 4-star hotel, they'll be getting free food, benefits, free doctors, free dentists and free lawyers. This has got to stop.
So there are two options available to us when they arrive. You're right, they all commit offences by arriving here without permissions and passports. That is a criminal offence. They could all be prosecuted for that and all be taken to magistrates' court, and the magistrates would then sentence them accordingly. But that won't affect their removal from the territory, because they will still claim asylum and they will still claim human rights protection in this country, whether or not we prosecute them. Now, we do have powers to detain them administratively without going to court under the Immigration Act of 1971, but those powers are limited because we have to demonstrate to the courts that we have a reasonable prospect of early removal, Kevin. And that is the problem. We do not have an early prospect of early removal in most of these cases because they enter an asylum system and a human rights system which can go on for weeks, months, or even years. And that's why we're under such pressure to grant temporary admission so quickly. Now, in order to fix that, you do need very, very radical changes to our legislation and our capabilities to be able to detain people. But I agree with you that we do need it to detain people at least as long as we can, to as best we can risk assess them before we grant them temporary admission, and ideally they would remain in detention until they are removed from the territory. But I'm afraid that's just not possible under the current infrastructure and frameworks that we're working under.
Well said, Tony. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your time. Tony Smith, former head of the UK Border Force, like me, calling for these migrants now when they arrive after what we learned yesterday. They've got to be detained. They broke our laws. We just say, oh, you broke into the country. Here's a hotel. I hope you like Brighton. It's a lovely place. Enjoy. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Alex Phillips this morning on Top Form saying that in effect this turns, these policies turn Keir Starmer and this government into rape enablers. You know, She's got a fair point, hasn't she? 0344 499 1000. Let me know what you think. We're going to talk about this, folks. Right, next up, we're going to talk to Michael Cole, the royal commentator, former BBC royal editor, of course. Prince Harry's been in Ukraine, and this is my personal view. I think his behaviour there was absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. I think he's crossed the line. He cannot freelance on the international stage like this, delivering a speech calling for America to honour its contractual, its treaty obligations. What does he know about it? He should not be stepping into this, particularly ahead of his father's state visit to America on Monday. He has cast a cloud over that. He has made it difficult. How dare this guy behave like this? He says he was born to do this. No, you weren't, mate. We don't do that anymore. It's 2026, not 1526. You were not born to do this. Wind your neck in and shut the hell up. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, let's talk about Prince Harry. Well, let's go over to my next guest. Believe he's only on the phone. He's got laptop problems. We know how it goes, doesn't we? But a warm welcome to the show to former BBC royal editor, royal commentator Michael Cole. Hello, Michael.
Good afternoon to you.
I hope this line it gets a little better. But listen, before we talk, Harry has been in Ukraine, and I believe his behaviour is absolutely outrageous. He's gone there. He's delivered a speech demanding that America honours its international treaties and protects Ukraine. That is none of his business. Donald Trump responding by saying that he, the President of the United States, he believes speaks more for the UK than Prince Harry. And I think the worst element of what he's done, Prince Harry, is he's overshadowed his father's state visit to America, which begins on Monday. He should not have done this. He has thrown a spanner into the works. It's going to cause real problems. And, you know, I'm going to call a spade a spade. This guy, Harry, he's not a genius, and he is dealing with matters, talking about matters that are above his intellectual pay grade, and he's got to wind his neck in. He must not do this. But let's, before we get your thoughts, Michael, let's have a look at the president and how he responded to Harry's outrageous antics in Ukraine.
Harry today has said that he would like to see you do more to end the war in Ukraine. Do you think it's appropriate for a royal to make those comments ahead of the visit on Monday?
Prince Harry?
Yes, sir.
How's he doing? How's his wife? Please give her my regards, okay? No, I don't know. I know one thing. Prince Harry is not speaking for the UK. That's for sure. I think I'm speaking for the UK more than Prince Harry. But I appreciate his advice very much. Great advice.
So, Michael, as I say, first of all, this is above Harry's intellectual pay grade. These are matters of international diplomacy. He should not be going there freelancing, making speeches like this, demanding America fulfills its obligations to Ukraine, etc. This is not his business. And his father's going to America for a state visit on Monday, and already that visit is under a cloud because of Harry's behaviour. And you know what Harry's like? He did this deliberately, in my view. This is beyond the pale.
Yeah. Interesting. This was his visit, but all the news media appeared to know that he was coming. Of course, I rather appreciated the president's remark that he appreciated Harry's advice very much, and they say that irony. I think in that case he was showing rather the fact that he of what he was saying. As you say, this speech, whatever its merits, Prince Harry said that he was there as a soldier or an ex-soldier and a humanitarian. But the question must be, would anybody be interested in what he had to say were he not the younger son of the king? And as you said, the king is going on a state visit, four-day state visit with the Queen, about whom in the past, of course, Prince Harry has said some very disobliging things, to America. And he's going to make a speech to the combined houses of Congress. He's going to New York to the 9/11 memorial, and he's going into the countryside to meet some people there. So it's not going to be helpful. The king, of course, and the Queen will rise above it all, and it will not be allowed to spoil an historic state visit. But if he were trying to upstage his father, make a mockery of his apparent avowed intent to some way reconcile years of discord with the royal family, that would make it that much harder. There's a possibility that he could reconcile with his father, the king. Absolutely no possibility of a reconciliation is at the present with his older brother, Prince William.
I think it's problematical with the king, particularly after this speech. This is the thing that particularly annoyed me about Harry and the way he's behaved. He shouldn't be doing this. He should not be freelancing on the international stage. This is above his pay grade. It's certainly above his intellectual pay grade. He is not the most gifted, brilliant person in the world. He's not very clever. This is what he said. He's given an interview to ITV, which will be on later today. In Ukraine. He said, "I'm here doing the things that I was born to do." What do you mean, born to do? You know, what right? He was not born to do this. As I say, this is 2026, not 1526. Just because you're in the royal family, it does not give you the right to go and interfere in international affairs. I think it's disgraceful what he's done.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, he made it clear, his wife made it clear that they no longer wish to be part of the royal family. They stepped down from particularly in affairs of the royal family, affairs of state as these were. If he'd stayed...
Michael, this is just the worst line. Your laptop's gone wrong, your phone's not very good either. So we get the point, and we'll talk again about this in the future. But thank you very much for giving us your time. Let's go to a call, shall we, while we wait for the next story. Let's talk to Dave in London. He wants to talk about the migrants. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. What would you like to say, mate?
Yeah, I heard you say earlier, you know, with the illegal migrants coming on the boats, we don't know who these people are. And I often hear a lot of people say that, but quite frankly, I don't really care who they are. I don't find it relevant in any way. And I think that I know.
Well, it is relevant if they're a murderer and then they turn up and they rape someone. It kind of that's the point. We want to know these basic things about them. Are they murderers? You know.
Yeah. Well, no. What I mean is, detain, deport, get rid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meaning, I don't care, in theory, who they are, what they've done, where they've come from. There should be no process at all. They should just be detained, deported, and gotten rid of.
I agree with you. That's what I've been saying. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
They broke our laws to get here. Therefore, as I've been sort of labouring the point, really, it's bizarre almost. Everyone else that comes into the country, just like all other countries around the world, you require a passport. Not just foreigners, British people who've been abroad. We all need our passports. It's a matter of national security. It's how you keep track of the people in your country, and you make sure you're not letting the wrong kind of people into your country. That's the system. However, in Britain, we have this alternative system whereby everybody needs a passport unless you're a migrant and you get into an illegal boat, cross the channel unlawfully, break into Britain in a criminal act, then we allow you in without a passport and we don't know anything about you because they chuck all their documents into the English Channel. That's just mad.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why if you're throwing your documents away, again, I don't really care. You got off that boat. There's where we're going to detain you. And I think also what they're obviously saying is, I think they can only be held for like the same time as 24 hours in police custody that we watch on the telly, and they should be given. Other than the fact they can't detain and deport them out, they should be given a week to 2 weeks, an indefinite amount of time, whatever they need, to identify who somebody is, and if they can't be identified, they will blooming well sit there until they can.
Do you know what I'd say? But I mean, Dave, what I'd say is you've broken into this country illegally. That's a crime. Therefore, you forfeit your right to claim asylum. You're in detention until we deport you. End of story.
Absolutely, and I think that. We can easily build detention centres to the standard that they are in France. I reckon, we had those contractors built those Nightingale hospitals in about, 24 hours.
Exactly right, mate. Exactly right.
So when we want to do it, we can do it.
I mean, all these military bases and these disused air bases they're using now, like the one in Crowborough, they're moving more and more migrants out of asylum seeker hotels and putting them into converted military bases. Well, what I say is put a lock on the gate, put big fences, don't let them out. Simple as that. There's another advantage to this, Dave. When the message gets through to those thousands and thousands and thousands of migrants right now waiting on the North French beaches to get their turn into one of those boats to come here illegally, if the message gets out to them that as soon as they arrive here in Britain, they are detained until we deport them, they won't come.
Exactly.
It's not rocket science, is it?
No, and that wouldn't need to turn the boats round. The boats wouldn't leave the shore, so there'd be nothing to turn round.
Exactly right, Dave. Exactly right. You and I are on exactly the same page. Good call, mate. Thank you very much, Dave in London. Listen, we lost contact with Michael Cole there, but let me know what you think about Prince Harry. I think, it's a very low point for him. Who the hell does he think he is? Going to Ukraine and demanding that America, meets its international obligations. What does he know about it? Well, how dare he say, I was born to do this? No, you weren't, mate. You're just a ginger bloke who lives on the west coast of America smoking dope. Tell us you were born to do this. But it's irresponsible. It gets in the way. His father's doing a state visit to America. What he's done in Ukraine has cast a cloud over that, caused all sorts of complications. And what the hell does he know about anything? I mean, come on. He's as thick as a plank. 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to talk to a guy who was arrested. His house was raided. A load of cops turned up. They searched his house. They took his laptops, his phones and everything. Then they took him to the police station. They banged him up for the night. Hadn't done anything wrong. He has just won a massive amount of money from Hertfordshire Police, who've made a habit of doing this kind of thing. We'll talk to that poor victim of wrongful arrest next. Stay tuned.
I was growing up, a profound love of the British Empire, actually, and the good that Britain did for the world. And yet, to have that view today seems more of an exception than the norm.
Over the past week, I have been living on the coast of Belgium. Small boats leaving the Flemish coast to go to England. So far, 20 small boats that have left the Belgian coast to come to England.
When they saw that drunk woman at 5:45 a.m. in the morning, they just felt contempt for her. They took advantage of her. They are barbarians.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now, Hertfordshire Police, they've got a new hobby, wrongfully arresting people, particularly for what they call wrong communications, unlawful communications. Not so long ago, they had to pay £20,000 to a couple of parents whose house was raided. They were taken to the police station, held for 11 hours on suspicion of harassment and malicious communications. There were a couple of parents in a WhatsApp group talking about the local school and the quality of teachers with other parents. Hertfordshire Police decided this was a heinous crime. They had to give those parents £20,000. And my next guest was even worse. His name's Samuel Smith. We interviewed him a while back, but he has now won his case. They banged on his door. They searched his house. They hauled him off to the Hertfordshire Police Station, where he spent the night in a cell. Totally wrongful. He was accused of malicious communication, which he did not do, and he has just won £34,000. So my first question to IT boss Sam Smith is, Sam, I'm a bit broke at the moment. Could you lend me some money?
Sorry, I'd love to, but
listen,
hard time.
Congratulations, you fully deserve this. What are they playing at? I mean, tell us the story of what happened. They came banging on your door at night, didn't they? You were about to go to bed, as I recall. Hauled you off because you'd written a blog about a local woman who'd been wrongly accused of paedophilia, and they said that this was malicious communication, and they treated you like you were a bank robber or something. Outrageous.
Thanks. Yes. On the 8th of March last year, I had a knock on my door at midnight exactly. And there were some police there, and I was polite to them. And I invited them in to talk, not knowing what it was about. A little bit groggy because I've been in bed, so I put on my dressing gown. Hair slightly dishevelled because I've been in bed. Not really with it, but I was polite to them, and I invited them in. And the officer told me he was placing me under arrest for 2 counts of false communications, which is a new offence in the Online Safety Act. And it was for 2 blog articles I'd written. One was slightly critical of a local police chief inspector, and they were basically about false allegations in a local Facebook group. And these articles of mine were supported by citations, screenshots and links. So I didn't just say, You
didn't just make it up as you went along. You properly researched what you wrote.
Yeah, because I'm legally trained, which came in useful later. So I tend to be quite strict about fact-checking. And, I even once was investigated for sending a fact-checking letter, but that's a different story. But they did indeed search my home, and they did seize my devices, and they took me off to Hatfield Police Station in Hertfordshire, and they midway arrested me for theft of mail, which was some Tory party leaflets that had been left over undelivered from an election. And they, and this was like when I was already in the police van, and they took me to a police station. I was held for, I think it was about 12 to 14 hours. So from midnight till early afternoon.
How many coppers came to your house, sir?
There are about 12.
12?
I put that... I put that figure to them.
12.
And there are at least 2 vehicles in the. I think there were 3, but there are at least 2 in the body cam footage.
Yeah.
There was a van and at least 1 car. And so if you were being sort of robbed or murdered or assaulted or whatever elsewhere in the area, you're out of luck because they were dealing with a serious log crime. So burglars had a free rein. So then they took me to the police station, interviewed me, released me on bail. I'm legally trained, so a couple of days later, having researched it all, I sent a letter of claim to start the suing and challenging process and a police complaint. By the end of the week, the investigation was dropped. They gave me all my stuff back. They found nothing dodgy. I had cooperated fully. I'd given all my passwords to decrypt everything. There was nothing dodgy. They just gave me all my devices back. So I wheeled my computer and my laptop and my phones out of Hatfield Police Station and took them home.
And then sued them,
yeah.
I mean, have you had a full apology from them?
Yeah, to be fair, they have apologised now. It's in the settlement, and
But I mean, here's the deal, Sam. You must have been all through this. They're now saying, "Oh, I'm so very sorry. We should never have done this. We shouldn't have raided your house. We shouldn't have arrested you. We shouldn't have thrown you in a cell overnight over an offence that you were not guilty of. We should never have done that." You must have been pointing this out to them throughout your ordeal. You must have been saying to them, "This is ridiculous." At that point, they weren't listening to you. As I say, they were treating you like public enemy number 1.
Yes, and it's worse than that, because not only did they not take it on board during the arrest process, but afterwards, when I had a police complaint, they gave themselves a clean bill of health, and it was immediately overturned by the local police commissioner. To be fair, got a great local police commissioner's office. They overturned the police internal investigation, said it was unreasonable, and so the police had to do a second internal investigation. And I wasn't particularly impressed because they'd been stalling so long, so I started the court proceedings. Then they came back and gave themselves another clean bill of health, ignoring bits that the police commissioner had said, please do again. So then the police commissioner overturned their second internal investigation and said, no, this is unreasonable too. And so by that stage, we're into the court proceedings, and we settled before we ever got to a third internal investigation, which has been kind of superseded by the settlement. So what was concerning was that the PSD department, in my case and in other people's cases, has been found not to have made reasonable decisions. And I actually had another matter a year or two ago where it went not to the local commissioner, but the Independent Office of Police Conduct National.
Yeah.
And the IOPC found their internal investigations were not reasonable or proportionate.
You think, wouldn't you, Sam, that they might have learned their lesson when they raided the house of Rosalind Levine and Maxie Allen, the 2 parents who'd been in a sort of WhatsApp group of parents talking about their children's teachers. They were arrested, similar ordeal to you, as if they were serious criminals, accused of malicious communication. Obviously absolute nonsense. They had to give them £20,000 compensation. You thought they might have learnt their lesson by the time they did it to you again.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually very close in time. I think that Maxie Allen and his partner were arrested in January, and I was arrested in early March of the same year. And what was striking also a similarity was that the Internal Investigations Department, I think, initially gave that arrest a clean bill of health. And of course, then they ended up giving them 20 grand, as you say.
Yeah, they love marking their own homework, these cops. So listen, Sam, congratulations on winning your case. I've got to go, but let me ask you a last question. What are you going to do with the money?
It's going to be very boring. I put most into savings, a little bit on going out and enjoying myself.
Well, you deserve it. And Sam, I appreciate you came on before, and I appreciate you coming on this time. We'll stay in touch. Thank you very much. Sam Smith, who has shown the police a lesson. They've learned a lesson. Stop doing this to people. Who do you think you are? I mean, he's a decent guy writing a blog, and you treat him as if he's a bank robber or something. Come on. It's just get the cops in this country. It's another big problem. They're out of control. They're out of control, aren't they? £34,000 to Sam Smith. Ka-ching. Well done. Now, next up, we're going to talk to Tory MP Graham Stewart, go through some of the big stories of the day. So stay tuned for that. See you in a minute.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, I'll talk to my colleague, our man in Washington, Harry Cole. Let me tell you, Keir Starmer, if you think he's had a bad week this week, you should check out next week. Next week is Keir Starmer's week from hell. We'll tell you why a little later. Stay tuned. In the meantime, let's go straight over to my next guest, go through some of the big stories of the day with the Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness, Graham Stewart. Welcome, Graham.
Good afternoon, Kevin.
I want to get you on the migrant crisis and this horrific case in Brighton in just a moment, because I do think we must have reached some kind of tipping point. Something has to be done. But first of all, because it's breaking news, I want to get you on Keir Starmer's increasing problems. First of all, today was the first time in this government's history, in the entire period of this government, that they have not put out a minister to do the media rounds. Gee, I wonder why. Meanwhile, right now, this has just broken. According to the newspaper, the Cabinet has been having secret discussions on who should be the minister to advise Sir Keir Starmer to quit as Prime Minister. This comes as Sir Keir is reportedly holding crisis meetings with his allies at Chequers today. And as I say, no minister was available on the media round. Now, the essence of his problems, I mean, he's got a plethora of problems, but why matters have come to a head was at PMQ's, Prime Minister's Questions on Wednesday, he was given a very strict script in how to handle Kemi Badenoch's questions vis-à-vis Ollie Robbins' testimony to the Foreign Affairs Committee and all the other issues surrounding his problems, shall we say. And he stuck to that script, except at one point he suddenly turned round to the House, and apparently the Cabinet is utterly dismayed by this. They don't know why he did it. He suddenly turned round to the House and he said no pressure was put on Ollie Robbins or the civil service whatsoever when it came to Peter Mandelson's vetting process. Now that quite clearly is not true. Kemi Badenoch immediately saying he should be recalled to the House to set the record straight. The Cabinet saying, wow, this is a big problem now. Crisis meetings. I think next week might be the week. It really does seem that he may have crossed the line at this point. As I say, he suddenly freelanced. He suddenly went across it, away from his script in the chamber, and said there was no pressure put on the civil service to get Peter Mandelson into our embassy in Washington. That's just not true. He lied to the House.
He did. It's quite straightforward, and they're right to be horrified. I'm slightly surprised that this Cabinet is capable of being horrified at untruths told in the House of Commons by Keir Starmer, because he does it all the time. The man who promised us a different type of politics, more transparency, more honesty, has every single week. He sits there, slithers around, avoids answering the question, and then frequently says things which he knows aren't true. So I think he's been found out. And I think it's probably less, Kevin, whatever they say about their analysis of this misleading of the House, which they're taking seriously. It's more that they looked behind him. And if you look behind him this week, Kevin, I'll tell you, the first time all the Labour MPs were basically, the body language said they'd had it with him. And that's it. They don't want to back him anymore. They're embarrassed. And once you've lost that, once the herd starts to move, you're in real trouble. And I think the Cabinet's read that as much as they read what he said in Parliament.
Yes, exactly. Now, check this out. This is the Prime Minister this morning. Now, so we know that Pat McFadden and various Cabinet ministers, various Labour MPs who have appeared on television, radio, etc., have been pointedly not supporting the Prime Minister's decision to sack Ollie Robbins, the former permanent Undersecretary at the Foreign Office. Pat McFadden, refusing to back the Prime Minister something like 12 times in about 4 media appearances.
He's the loyalist, Kevin. You got to realise who Pat McFadden is. He's not just.
I know.
He's not an ambitious fellow cabinet member. He's not Wes Streeting. This is a bloke who's just the wired-in loyalist bloke. He's the one who will back you in all circumstances until it's impossible. So if Pat McFadden refuses to back you, you're dead.
Yeah, and you know this, Graham. When cabinet secretaries, cabinet ministers stop backing their Prime Minister, that's the end of the line. Now, even, this is what I want you to watch, even Keir Starmer is refusing now to say that the cabinet is backing. Check this out. Watch him.
Are you confident the Cabinet is fully behind you?
The Cabinet is working really hard on a huge amount of issues and what we're delivering at the moment. We're preparing for the King's speech and all the further measures that we're going to need to take the country forward. And of course, the issue we discuss at Cabinet a lot in recent weeks is the war on 2 fronts, the ongoing war in Ukraine and the developing situation in Iran. What we discuss at Cabinet is the international aspect of that, but also the domestic impact in relation to that and the measures that we need to take to ensure that we're assessing the risks and making sure we're protecting people in this country from those impacts.
In case you forgot from that answer, that obfuscating answer, Graham, the question was, are you confident the Cabinet is behind you? He refused to answer that question. So he knows his number is up.
Yeah, I've watched him fail to answer questions now so often that I think even if the answer would help him, he doesn't give it. I think the man has become so used to avoiding the question that if you said to him, have you had a nice day today?
Yeah.
The reason I'm having this day is because of what I'm going to do tomorrow. And you'd be going, no, I was just asking if you're having a nice day. He's not capable of giving a straight answer to anything. I hate him. Imagine what his wife has to put up with when she says, would you like chips or would you like mash tonight?
Yeah.
Must be impossible. He'll start talking about burgers.
I'll tell you what, I mean, I know, you know this, Graham, that that bust-up he had with the Speaker of the House, Lindsay Hoyle, last week, that came after months. The Speaker's office has been rowing deeply with number 10 Downing Street, saying, listen, you've got to get Starmer to answer questions when he comes. It's called Prime Minister's questions. He just will not answer questions. But I do think it's very pointed that that question was, are you confident the Cabinet are behind you? And he wouldn't answer that. One more damning line from this story in the I newspaper right now, just breaking. This is a quote, even people in Keir's inner circle are in despair, a cabinet aide said. None of this is survivable, whether it's slow and painful or acute. At this stage, we are doing a disservice to trust in the government. I mean, maybe next week, but maybe the local elections, but his days are numbered, aren't they?
Well, they are. He's a dead man walking. It's quite obvious. He's lost the people behind him. He looks a broken man himself. He can't even evidence any enthusiasm to talk about himself if you ask him. So he's dead. The trouble is, what comes next? Because, none of them have a plan. They arrived in power. They did a brilliant job of getting into power. But it turned out they got there and they had no clue what to do. And the first things they tried to do...
No.
I mean, they must look back on it and think, why was the first thing that we did was attack pensioners? How was that going to win us votes? Did it save us a lot of money? No. You're like, oh, right, OK. And then we attacked private schools. Do we really want the Labour Party to look like it hates aspiration? Let's get rid of really good schools in this country just because only rich people mostly can afford them. Let's attack them. That'll work. No, it doesn't. And it turns out there are more pressure on state schools, and all the numbers now show they're not going to make any money. They must look back and think, what on earth were we doing? Where was a single good idea? Oh, I know what. We're not going to tax people, so we'll put taxes up on business because that won't affect people. And then it turns out it does affect people. Unemployment goes up, businesses shut, the high street gets killed, and you lose your local pub. I mean, they haven't done a single thing other than pay out. The only thing they must be proud of is they took billions of pounds and they shoved it in the mouth of their funders, which is the trade unions. And even those guys aren't happy, are they? They give the doctors 27.
The unions despise Starmer's government more than the Tories do. I mean, the unions have had it with them. So let's talk, if we may, Graham, about this horror yesterday, this rape case, which I believe, you know, in a sane world should have brought this country to the tipping point where something is done. So these three migrants, these three asylum seekers, 2 Egyptians, 1 Iranian, they're staying at an asylum seeker hotel at our expense, free food, £50 a week benefits, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers, all the other good stuff. They rape this woman. They've arrived on a small boat illegally, same boat, 3 of them. They became good chums during the voyage, apparently. That was last June. October the 4th, they subject this poor woman. Her testimony is haunting. They've ruined my life, she said. They were laughing at me. She said, I keep seeing their faces. They've ruined my life. They subjected this woman to this terrible rape ordeal. And were quite rightly found guilty, and hopefully will get very, very long prison sentences. What we learned yesterday, right about this time, I broke the news live on this station, and the switchboard went mad, and I went mad. I couldn't believe it. That one of them, the youngest, a 20-year-old from Egypt, was on the run from Egypt because he's a convicted murderer. He's wanted for murder there. And what that highlights is the fact that we just let in our migrant system, our asylum system is this. Thousands and thousands and thousands of young men from very different cultures, from far-off countries in the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, Afghanistan, arrive on our shores illegally. They cross the channel unlawfully, and we just let them in. All other foreigners who arrive here, and British people, have to show their passport. But a way you can get into this country without showing your passport is on an illegal small boat. We just let them in, and we know nothing about them. They're undocumented, and we've got to stop this, because how many more wanted murderers are out there who will go on to rape? That something has to be done. We cannot carry on with this system. And Shabana Mahmood's absurd announcement, very bad timing, by the way, while she's on the northern beach of France crowing about giving the French 662 million more pounds to do nothing. That'll have no effect whatsoever. We're learning about this horror in Brighton. Something has got to be done. I mean, I say detain these people. They've broken our laws. We can't just let them into the country when we know nothing about them. And that's what we're doing. We've got to stop doing that, surely.
I agree. And first up, because it's got to be said, and your viewers would be shouted at the telly if I didn't say it, the last Conservative government, over the 14 years, I think we did a great job on lots of things. But on immigration, and illegal immigration in particular, we did not. And people were in the government were talking about the need to go be more radical. We never got the flights taking off. Kemi Badenoch, as she says, putting their hands up. We did not deliver what we promised. And people lost confidence in us because of that. Going forward, she is determined to put that right. That's why she commissioned a study to make sure we got it right. We're going to leave the ECHR. We're going to come up with a borders plan. In answer to your question, Kevin, you come here, we're not going to machine gun you. We're not going to stop you because it's difficult to do without them drowning. We're going to document you. And if you come here illegally, we will pass a law, having left the ECHR, having reasserted parliamentary sovereignty, dominance. If you come here illegally, you can never, under the law of the land, ever be allowed to stay.
That's it.
So that's number one.
In other words,
no social housing. We'll tighten up on other fronts as well. No social housing for anyone who's not a UK citizen. You go, look at this case and this person, they're contributing. Why can't they have social housing too? Because millions and millions of British citizens don't get access to social housing. Social housing is a privilege for those who we can give it to. So it is not unreasonable, it's not racist, it's not peculiar to say, actually, that thing is going to be exclusively for people who are British citizens, and we can help out foreigners who have every right to be here, but we're not going to let them have that. We also, Kevin, illegal arrivals should be deported within a week, and we are going to set up a rapid deportation and removals force to do exactly that. But the most important step, a bit like Rwanda, was to give a deterrent. If you come here illegally, You might have burnt your passport, but we'll take your photograph, we'll do your fingerprints, we'll know who you are, and you will never, ever, under the law of the land, be allowed to stay here. So you want to come to Britain, the one thing you never want to do is get on one of these boats, because if you do, you'll never be allowed to stay. And that's the change. And we should have done it before. We didn't. Hands up. But Kemi Badenoch is determined that we should have a plan to deal with the challenges we face, because confidence in politics is rock bottom. People think are playing on all your houses. The Tories let us down. Labour promised better. They're worse. And there's a long way. We have to have a plan, have specific answers, and it'll take time to rebuild trust. And I've got to be part of that, along with Kemi, over the next 3 years of election. We can say we have the plans,
I'll tell you what, Graham, if you and Kemi and the Tories successfully persuade the country that you will send a message to these migrants that if you get here illegally, you forfeit your right to claim asylum, you'll be detained and deported, which, by the way, is called a deterrent. Because if that message gets to the thousands of migrants waiting on the northern French beaches to come across the channel, if that message gets, if they find out once they get here they get detained and deported, they won't come. But if you successfully persuade the British public that that is what you will do, trust me, you'll do very, very well in the election. Graham, I've got to go, but please come on and do this again. It's really good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Graham Stewart there, MP, Tory MP for Beverley and Holderness. Now, he's admitting how terrible the Tories were in 14 years. The migrant crisis is their fault. By the time they left office, Rishi Sunak, remember he used to appear in those lectures, stop the boats. And we always used to say, well, he should just put don't in front of the stop the boats, because he didn't. But they were a disaster. And incredibly, this Labour lot have made it even worse. Something has got to be done, and that horrific rape story in Brighton yesterday, that's got to be the tipping point. We've got to do something, don't you think? 0344 499 1000. Next up, let's go. We're going to go over to our man in Washington. Is that right? No, first, that's right. We're going to go to Harry Cole in Washington in just a little while. We need to talk about, if you think Keir Starmer's had a bad week this week, you should see his week next week. It'll make this week look like a walk in the park. I just don't see how he can carry on like this. It's just getting ridiculous. But Harry Cole and I will discuss the week from hell ahead for Keir Starmer. But next up, we need to talk about Keir's human rights lawyer mate, Richard Hermer, the Attorney General, unelected Attorney General, because he stands accused of being part of a witch hunt to hound British troops, veterans who served in Iraq and other parts of the world. The forces are furious with this. We'll talk to former Tory MP and former soldier James Sunderland next, so stick around.
when I was growing up, a profound love of the British Empire, actually, and the good that Britain did for the world. And yet, to have that view today seems more of an exception than the norm.
Over the past week, I have been living on the coast of Belgium. Small boats leaving the Flemish coast to go to England. So far, 20 small boats that have left the Belgian coast to come to England.
When they saw that drunk woman at 5:45 a.m. in the morning, they just felt contempt for her. They took advantage of her. They are barbarians.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. We need to talk about the Attorney General Richard Hermer, Lord Hermer, who stands accused of being part of a witch hunt to hound former British soldiers legally to try and convict them of war crimes. And the forces, the SAS, are furious about this, and it does seem to be very wrong. So welcome to the show, former MP, military expert, Colonel James Sunderland. Hello, James.
Hi, Kevin. I'm in the car at the moment and the lighting's all wrong, but I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. We can live with that. Lord Hermer has been reported to the barristers' watchdog over alleged serious professional misconduct for his role in a so-called witch hunt against British soldiers. Bob Seeley's writing today that our heroes are furious about the legal vultures hounding them for serving their country. We're talking specifically about Iraqi veterans. Hermer was involved in this witch hunt, which was dismissed in the end because there was no foundation whatsoever to the allegations that our soldiers were torturing and illegally murdering Iraqis. It was all made up. But Hermer was involved at the start of this. He's been reported to the barristers' watchdog for being part of this. And the Telegraph's reporting this morning that not only was he a part of it, but he was charging for his services to hound British soldiers £450 an hour, which the Ministry of Defence has described as excessive. I think I would agree with that. This man should not be Attorney General. There's a whole plethora of information about him that seems to point to the fact he doesn't like Britain. In the past, he's represented Gerry Adams, the Sinn Féin leader accused of serious connections with the IRA. He's represented Shamima Begum, the ISIS bride, and represented these people accusing British war heroes of war crimes. But Hermer doesn't like Britain, does he?
I suspect not, and I don't think Keir Starmer is friends to UK armed forces either. The heat at the moment that's being brought to bear on Lord Hermer is entirely justified in my view. Why? Because as an Attorney General, you've got to be taking the law in terms of balance. You've got to strike a balance for the best interest of the UK. You've got to make sure that your decisions are not so politically charged that they call into question your impartiality in terms of the role that you are holding. Unfortunately, his past history and his £450 an hour, or even pro bono work to support this activity, is now being called into question, and it's entirely right that he should be facing the full force of media investigations.
Exactly right. And he was part of, he was involved in the outrageous campaign by the now discredited, disgraced former solicitor, because he was struck off for this, Phil Shiner, a human rights solicitor, who basically went round recruiting Iraqis to pretend that they were tortured and killed by British soldiers in order to get great big payoffs. Now, Hermer was involved in that for a while. He says that he was not integrally involved. But, you know, this is not the background. Well, as I say, he also represented Gerry Adams against Britain. He represented Shamima Begum against Britain. Why is this man Britain's Attorney General? He doesn't seem to like this country.
Well, he's one of Starmer's cronies, quite clearly. He clearly does not like the UK at all. And it is very worrying, Kevin, because I'm an Iraq veteran. I did 2 tours in Iraq. You know, it was pretty hairy there on occasions. But the bottom line, what underlines any military service is the certainty that when you are ordered to go to war or into an operational zone by politicians, that those politicians have got your back. And what we found recently is that this is a government that does not have the back. What I mean by that is, of course, if you look back to the Northern Ireland issue, you look back to the Northern Ireland Legacy and Reconciliation Act that the Conservatives put through, Labour's repealed it. And how bizarre is it that the current Armed Forces Minister is himself a former member of the Special Forces? In my view, his position is untenable. He should be speaking out against this appalling activity. And what we have to be doing is putting our arms around former service personnel to thank them for their service, to give them the legal protections that they need, and not hound them incessantly in the courts of law. And the fact that we've got an Attorney General right now who was utterly complicit in going after honest, decent veterans, hounding them through the courts, working with Phil Shiner, is completely unacceptable. And actually, I would be seeking the Lord Hermer to resign.
Absolutely. Well said, James. Very well said. I mean, and don't forget, there's another element to this. Right now, as we speak, SAS heroes, SAS soldiers are quitting in their droves because they fear that the kind of covert activity that they tend to get involved in they may end up getting prosecuted for it. What kind of a country just goes around prosecuting soldiers who serve Britain? It's absolutely outrageous, and you're right, Lord Hermer should go. Perhaps when Keir Starmer goes, possibly next week, his mate Hermer will follow pretty swiftly. That will be a very good 1-2 in my view. James, great to talk to you. Have a lovely weekend. Colonel James Sunderland making his opinion very clear here. Now, I've got a statement from the Attorney General, Richard Hermer. A spokesman for the Attorney General said, over a 30-year legal career, the Attorney General has represented many clients, including British military personnel. He has always acted with the highest professional standards, and any suggestion he knowingly acted on false claims is categorically untrue. It is extremely common for a party to challenge every aspect of settlement costs, including legal fees. It is incorrect to suggest that this is in any way irregular. So that's what Hermer's spokesman is saying. And by the way, last point about Hermer, don't forget he was the mover and shaker who tried to give away the Chagos Islands to China's best friend, Mauritius. I mean, you know, as I say, we have an Attorney General who quite clearly, in my view, does not like this country. I don't think Starmer likes this country. They're old hippies from the 1970s, aren't they? You know, they're all against colonialism and imperialism. Let's give this country away. It's wrong for us to have any territory and all that kind of crap. You know, Richard Hermer, Attorney General. Hopefully we can get rid of this useless Prime Minister, human rights lawyer, and when he goes, the useless Attorney General, human rights lawyer, will go too. That would be good, wouldn't it? Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to our man in Washington, Harry Cole, about Keir Starmer's upcoming week from hell. As I keep saying, if you thought this week was bad for him, have a look at next week. It makes this week look like a walk in the park. Harry Cole next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to Washington and talk to the Sun's excellent editor-at-large, Harry Cole. Hi, Harry.
Hi, Kev. How are you?
I'm very, very well. I want to talk about Keir Starmer's week ahead, because if you think this week was bad, take a look at next week. Also, I want to get your thoughts on Donald Trump and Prince Harry. That's a very burning issue as well. But first up, next week, testifying to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee will be, first up, former Chief of Downing Street staff Morgan McSweeney, the man accused of yelling at the former Permanent Under-Secretary at the Foreign Office, Sir Philip Barton, saying just effing approve it in terms of Mandelson's vetting for the position of Ambassador to the United States of America. And then Philip Barton will appear as well. So that's really, really tough news for Keir Starmer. But the backdrop, the little reported backdrop to this is this highly anticipated trial starts at the Old Bailey on Monday. These are three Eastern European male models who will be on trial. They deny this, but they're charged with firebomb attacks on various properties connected to the Prime Minister. A very mysterious case. They're all denying, they're all pleading not guilty, and people are extremely intrigued to find out what the hell was going on there. So, you know, you've got Morgan McSweeney, Sir Philip Barton, the male model Eastern European trial. This is literally the perfect storm for Keir Starmer, the week from hell, right?
Well, it's one of those weeks where his sort of fate is out of his control, really. And on top of all of that, while back home in Westminster, the King will be in America, standing next to Donald Trump. Now, given how bad relations between Starmer and Trump are at the moment, he's wisely swerved this meeting. He's sending Yvette Cooper in his stead for the state visit. But, you know, there's all sorts of meticulous planning going into this visit to try and avoid upsets or try to avoid rows. But it's clear that President Trump is steaming angry with Starmer. So will he be able to resist, you know, upending things globally while back home, as you say, Keir Starmer's battling away to save his job? Now, it's reached that sort of stage in this scandal in a premiership where the wheels have kind of come off, a little bit like it got for Boris Johnson towards the end, in the fact that actually everything's out of Starmer's control. Now, you know, he's gone to war with the civil service, and the civil service tend to come out of these things on top, for right or for wrong. You know, that list of names you listed there of senior civil servants all had their faults. Of all, you know, which one of them didn't go on holiday during the evacuation of Kabul? Which ones of them haven't spent years trying to frustrate Brexit? You know, Ollie Robbins, this was a man that was, you know, negotiated Theresa May's Brexit deal, and now he's held up as if he's some sort of saint. So, I mean, a little bit of caution when it comes to Sir Humphrey's arse covering. Am I allowed to say arse? Ass covering, as we say over here.
If you say it with an American accent, it's okay. Ass.
Exactly.
That's fine, yeah.
So when it comes to the civil service, you know, closing ranks, my sort of spider senses get a little bit nervous about that. But that said, it is a moment of maximum danger. I don't expect Morgan McSweeney will put too much of the boot in. At the end of the day, he was Keir Starmer's loyal, you know, right-hand man. He was, lots of people think he is the Starmer project. He was the brains behind Keir Starmer. He was the reason that Starmer won that election in 24. It's the reason that Starmer won the election of the leadership in 2020. So I wouldn't expect him to put the final death knell in. They're not in a sort of Dominic Cummings, Boris Johnson race to the bottom sort of, you know, fight to the death between those two. I suspect he'll try and remain as loyal as possible while answering the questions as truthfully as possible. That said, you know, Starmer won't be facing PMQs on Wednesday because, lo and behold, for the local elections, he's managed to prorogue Parliament Wednesday morning. So he'll miss one more round of the newly forensic Kemi Badenoch duffing, you know, slapping him round the chops.
Yeah, and do you will remember, of course, Starmer was fuming, absolutely hopping
Always
mad
horrified.
when Boris prorogued Parliament, and
Yes,
now
of course.
he's busy doing it to avoid his embarrassment at PMQs. But as I say, also we've got to be careful here. Obviously, it's a trial, sub judice, and all that. But the backdrop next week to all of this will be a load of serious headlines emanating from the Old Bailey, because we have been wondering what the hell was going on when three Eastern European male models, two of them from Ukraine, one from Romania, ended up getting charged with firebombing various properties connected to the Prime Minister, including the one that he owns, I believe, in Islington and Kentish Town. One of them, the actual front door was firebombed. So everybody has always been saying, you know, what the hell was this case all about? Well, we're going to find out next week. So it's going to be a really excruciating week for the Prime Minister.
Well, it's one of those things where it's tricky because obviously, you know, it is sub judice. They have been charged. We cannot publicly discuss the contents of the case, and therefore a vacuum has filled. You know, because they are, you know, who they are, and their identities and perhaps, you know, lifestyles raised some eyebrows. A sort of vacuum online has been filled, and this is the sort of crunch 22 we have in this country. In the fact that, you know, yes, we have very strong contempt of court laws in order to protect fair trials. That said, are they fit for purpose in the modern age when, you know, newspapers and broadcasters like ourselves are not able to actually openly discuss these cases, and social media steps in with all sorts of lurid conspiracy theories, and actually, you know, when it does finally come out in the wash, my understanding is actually this is a dark tale. But it's not a scandal involving the Prime Minister. It is a security, you know, security sources I've spoken to about this one say there's a story here, but it's not the one you think.
It'll be fascinating to find out what's going on. Let's move on. As you quite rightly say, Harry, we have to be careful here. All these three defendants deny the charges against them, and it is not for us to prejudge the outcome of that trial. Now, first, let's talk about Donald Trump. Prince Harry, you know, your phone call mate, the President of the United States. Well, Harry's been in Ukraine, behaving disgracefully, in my view, getting involved in international affairs, talking about matters that are above his pay grade and arguably above his intellectual pay grade, saying that America has to honour its international obligations to Ukraine. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. It's none of Harry's business. And also, I think this is a deliberate bid by Harry to overshadow his father's state visit to America, which starts on Monday. Before I get your thoughts, Harry, here is Trump speaking about the Duke of Sussex.
Harry today has said that he would like to see you do more to end the war in Ukraine. Do you think it's appropriate for a royal to make those comments ahead of the visit on Monday?
Prince Harry?
Yes, sir.
How's he doing? How's his wife? Please give him my regards, okay? No, I don't know. I know one thing. Prince Harry is not speaking for the UK. That's for sure. I think I'm speaking for the UK more than Prince Harry. But I appreciate his advice very much. Great advice.
I think he's right. I mean, but it provides an interesting backdrop to the King's arrival on Monday, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that you know are out of control. Look, you know, there's I'm writing about tomorrow the behind the scenes. You know, the meticulous planning that's gone into this. Every minute of this state visit between Trump and the King has been, you know, planned, and between the White House, the palace, committees, the Foreign Office. You know, it's all been incredibly stage managed. But there's just some things they can't control, and that's external factors. One of them is Prince Harry. He's turned up in Ukraine. He's banging the drum for his Invictus Games, which I think is a pretty noble pursuit if it genuinely is, you know, why he's there. That said, the timing is very unfortunate. You know, this is exactly what the late Queen said he couldn't do. He couldn't be half royal, and he couldn't be half in, half out. You pick. You either are, you know, a Montecito celebrity doing Spotify deals and Netflix deals and watching your wife embarrass herself making jam, or you're a royal who can go to Ukraine and meet the troops and travel around Australia and represent the monarchy. You can't do both. And at the moment, he looks like he's trying to have his cake and eat it. Interestingly, the palace have been, they haven't come out and sort of slapped him down. They've said, look, he's a private citizen, he can do what he wants. But they're pretty miffed that he didn't even kind of tell them that he was going to go to Ukraine. So there's that. And then also, you've obviously got Donald Trump. I mean, he didn't put a foot wrong, really, during the state visit to the United Kingdom last September. He had a little pop at Starmer about energy bills and windmills and the like. But he was, on the whole, pretty well behaved. And actually, I'm writing in the paper tomorrow again as a big scene setter. They see Windsor, the Trump administration see Windsor as the high point of their return to power. The second administration, that state banquet, that visit was the golden age, was the golden moment of the golden era. And, they look back at that incredibly fondly. So I can see the president being on pretty good behavior next week. That said, he is very angry with Keir Starmer. Will he be able to differentiate his anger for Starmer with the anger for the king? So there's all sorts of factors at play that could upend this. There's only so much planning you can do for this when there's such big characters involved. But this is the king's 20th visit to the United States. He is a top diplomat. If his government tells him he's got to go and eat Donald Trump's, breakfast, he's going to go and eat Donald Trump's breakfast. So he will, the king will do his part. The Queen will do her part. But it'll be fascinating to see how they keep the show on the road with external factors. As I say, Harry, Meghan, Trump. Epstein. Is Epstein going to come up? And then even today, we understand that the Falkland Islands.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about
being
this.
Reconsidered. These are not the sort of things they want to be talking about at the state visit. They want to be talking about the Bill of Rights and the Magna Carta and our shared history and the Declaration of Independence and tech and trade and AI. They don't want to be talking about the Falkland Islands. So already, 96 hours before the king even lands here in sunny Washington, the thing's already creaking.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? Because Trump has let it be known, I think, in his sort of fury with Starmer. This is all about his dislike for Keir Starmer. He has said that America will review its support, diplomatic support of Britain's claim to control the Falklands Islands. I mean, what do you make of that?
Crucially, we've got to remember that actually America doesn't actually officially recognise Britain's claim over the Falkland Islands already. So we're already coming from a pretty poor standpoint. Back in '82, obviously, when it happened, there was about a week or so where, Maggie and Reagan were at odds because the Americans didn't immediately come into bat for us. Obviously, you've got Milei, who has a very good relationship in Argentina with this current White House, who's obviously cock-a-hoop about these comments. So, they de facto, they kind of recognise our sovereignty over it. They recognise that we're running the place. Really, really tricky bruise to punch for Britain, especially at a time when, I've been writing, defence experts have been warning, politicians have been saying, the Argentinians luckily probably don't have the capability to take the Falkland Islands, but if they did, would we even be able to defend them anymore? Where's our destroyers? Where are our aircraft carriers? We're being escorted around the world by the Germans and the French. We can't even get a boat to the Med within a month to protect our base in Cyprus. Remember that flotilla that launched? To save the
task force flotilla. There was something like there were about 40 ships in it. It was massive.
Bigger now. That task force is bigger now than the entire navy. So I mean,
yeah, I'll tell you, Harry,
it's really worrying.
You ask. Would we be able to defend the Falklands now? I can answer that question. The answer is no, we would not. Now, listen, Harry, I look forward to reading your stuff in the paper tomorrow. You've got a very busy week ahead. And thank you so much for fitting us into your busy schedule.
Always a pleasure, my friend. See you soon.
Thank you very much, Harry. All the best, mate. That's Harry Cole, editor of at large for the Sun newspaper, our man in Washington. Very kind of him to come on. So, big week in America next week. Let me know what you think. Let's take a quick call because I'm particularly furious with Harry. I'm furious with Prince Harry on a number of levels for this Ukraine trip, but probably the thing that really, really gets my goat is he said it. So people say, well, why are you making this speech? Who the hell are you? Why have you gone to Ukraine to make a speech calling on America to honour its international obligations? Who the hell are you to do that? He said, because I was born to do this. No, you weren't, mate. You were not born to do this. Who the hell do you think you are? That's outrageous. Let's talk to Elliot in Hertfordshire. Hi, Elliot. What would you like to say?
Kevin, I'm just trying to keep my cool about Harry. I think it's a complete disgrace. I am so angry. Let me try and explain. Just allow me a little bit of time, please.
Please.
Here is an individual born into royalty, lucky so-and-so, had everything. He is not the only person to have lost his mother. My God, a disgrace. They wanted to get out of the royal family. They got out, and all they've done since is stick their rotten snouts back into this country. Yeah. Nobody wants them. He is trashing his own family, and by trashing his own family, Kevin, he's trashing the actual monarchy and the heritage and values of this great country. Charles really's got to get a grip. I like Charles. I'm supportive of him. But, Kevin, I'm afraid he appears very weak. He needs to immediately remove those titles.
Agreed. Absolutely agree.
And the rate and of course these rotten left-wing public broadcasting or private broadcasting associations, why do they give Harry the oxygen of this publicity? Well, and by the way, Kevin, who is paying for all these trips?
That's a good point.
Who is paying for all these legal things he does? Moaning Minnie and moaning Mickey, the lot of them, I think they are a complete and utter disaster. And I'll tell you this, if Trump's got any BALLS about him, given that apparently, allegedly, I better say, Harry has not been totally accurate on his visa application, they should
Kick him out. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
If he comes back here, I hope he doesn't, but if he does, with that repugnant, rotten wife of his, they will see how much the people of this country dislike him. He should just crawl away and get on with his life.
I agree. Listen, Elliot, it goes like this. I think that it is time for the king to act. If Harry's going to abuse that royal title he no longer deserves, then he should have it taken away from him, just like Andrew. He should no longer be the Duke of Sussex, and he should no longer be Prince Harry. He should just be Harry. And then he wouldn't really be able to go to Ukraine because he's abusing his position. He's getting involved in matters he does not understand. To be honest with you, as I said earlier, they're way above his intellectual pay grade. He's too dim to be making these speeches. And he's done it deliberately, in my view, to overshadow his father's trip to America and to undermine it. And I think that is an absolute living disgrace. You put it better than I could, Elliot, but I agree with every word you said. Thank you for an excellent call, and call me again. That's Elliot in Hertfordshire. What do you think about Harry? He's crossed the line this time. What the hell does he think he's doing? It's outrageous. But I was born to do this. Hey, mate, you weren't born to do this. It's 2026, not 1526. Just because you happen to be the king's son, it doesn't give you the right to go round making your speeches about international affairs that you don't understand, and the reason you don't understand them is you're too thick. Let's go to break. Sun Sport next.
when I was growing up, a profound love of the British Empire, actually, and the good that Britain did for the world. And yet, to have that view today seems more of an exception than the norm.
Over the past week, I have been living on the coast of Belgium. Small boats leaving the Flemish coast to go to England. So far, 20 small boats that have left the Belgian coast to come to England.
When they saw that drunk woman at 5:45 a.m. in the morning, they just felt contempt for her. They took advantage of her. They are barbarians.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Jake Sanders, sports news editor at The Sun, is in the studio. Big week of sport ahead, particularly in the football arena. Well, Arsenal, Newcastle, they're playing Newcastle at home. Saka is back, and Saliba says they need to die on the pitch between now and the end of the season to win the title. I wouldn't like to be an Arsenal fan. You're not an Arsenal fan, are you?
I'm a Tottenham fan.
Yeah, oh, well, yeah, actually, I'd rather be an Arsenal fan than a Tottenham fan. But nervous times for Arsenal.
Yeah, so obviously City have cut that gap, which was 9 points only 2 weeks ago. They beat them last week, beat Burnley, so now City are ahead on goal difference and not in action this weekend because of the FA Cup. So if Arsenal avoid defeat, they'll go back top, but they desperately need to win. There's games running out and it could come down to goal difference, so Arsenal desperately need to win every game. Saka's back, which is a big boost. He's been injured for the last month since the League Cup final, so that'll be a big boost. And yes, Saliba's saying they need to sort of do everything they can and leave it all out there, because otherwise they will not be champions at this current rate if the form doesn't change.
And I think that the Gunners are now beset by a nervousness, aren't they? And that is really pernicious.
Well, we've seen it in that Bournemouth game a couple of weeks ago. You know, the game was 1-0 with half an hour to go, and the ground was nervous. Whether it's the nervousness of the fans is rubbing off on the players, or whether it's more likely the nervousness of the team is rubbing off on the stadium, and it's all one big sort of nervy environment. But yeah, Arsenal need to get an early goal tomorrow to ease the nerves and desperately need to win.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see. And then the week after that, I'll be there at the Arsenal Stadium to watch them play Fulham. So they're going to lose that one. But that should be a lot of fun. Just because you're second, just because you're nervous and all that sort of stuff, we're going to have a lot of fun playing Arsenal. Now, you just mentioned, Jake, I forgot you're a Tottenham fan. You and Dean Scoggins, eh?
Yeah.
What kind of a weekend have you got ahead? What's happening?
Well, Spurs have not won for 15 Premier League games. They've not won since December, and they will not get a better chance than against relegated Wolves. They're 2 points below West Ham, who play Everton, and if they win and West Ham don't, they'll be out of the relegation zone. But regardless of what happens in the other games, they have to win. This long run is just getting longer and longer and longer, and the whole sort of setup seems so fragile. So can't get a better chance.
Who's at home and who's away?
Wolves are at home, so that gives Wolves a slight chance, and they've been decent at home. I think they're unbeaten in 3 home games. They've beaten Villa and Liverpool, and they drew with Arsenal. But, they lost 3-0 at Leeds last week, 4-0 at West Ham the week before. So it's probably a good time for Spurs to be playing them. But the way Spurs are going, you wouldn't say anything's a given.
You're no slouch when it comes to losing 3-0 either, are you? So,
exactly.
It's like death by 1,000 cuts, isn't it, at White Hart Lane? What about West Ham at home or away?
West Ham at home. Against Everton. Obviously it's David Moyes' birthday tomorrow, so he'll be out to put his former club back into keep him in major trouble, although he says the West Ham situation has made him feel sad. So
yeah, right. He'd love to put the boot in.
Well, they need it. They're going for Champions League, Europa League, whatever one.
Good outfit at Everton as well. So that was a really fascinating weekend. And Man City FA Cup semi-final. Pep Guardiola says the grass is too long at Wembley.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. A lot of games at Wembley outside of England are generally quite bad quality games. Whether or not Pep's got a point with the grass or not, or the fact that games are played at Wembley are, semi-finals and finals and are generally cagey affairs. But Spurs played at Wembley for quite a while, quite a few years back, when the new stadium was being built. And I did notice that the quality and the length of the grass, the ball doesn't zip across like the majority of Premier League games. So
why don't they just cut it?
I don't know. I don't know. But it is quite an interesting point, because when he mentioned it, I did think I've noticed that in the past. The general standard at Wembley of games is not as you see in an average Premier League week. So maybe Pep's got a point.
Interesting. And that's at 5:15. And they got Southampton. I mean, they've got to be confident.
Yeah, they'll probably make quite a few changes. And then Sunday's Chelsea Leeds. So
that is interesting as well.
Leeds. Some would argue Leeds may be favourites now. Obviously, Rossini's been sacked, but Leeds would appear to have a very good chance.
All these London clubs, Spurs, West Ham.
It's quite a miserable. It's a bit of. We actually had it in today's paper. Jack Keane's column was the mood in London is quite miserable. Chelsea, Tottenham, West Ham, even Arsenal still could win 2 trophies. Is generally quite a negative mood at the moment.
They should learn to be happily mediocre and average like Fulham, right?
Like Fulham, Brentford and Palace.
Exactly right. Jake, fantastic sports review, all in the Sun tomorrow. What a big weekend it is on the sporting front. Now, thank you to Jake, sports news editor at the Sun. Next up, Paul Cox will join us to go through some of the big stories of the day. You know what they are. We're mainly talking about the migrant crisis, this extraordinary, shocking story in Brighton. And we need to talk about the coalition of chaos. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, my friend and former editor of the Sun newspaper, Dominic Mohan, will be in the studio talking about his new book. He's written a book called 1996, My Backstage Pass to the Wildest Year of Britain's Wildest Decade. Dom was the bizarre editor of the Sun newspaper and knew all the stars, knew all the wild times, knew what was going on. He's written a book about it. He's curated an art exhibition about about that amazing decade, you know, Britpop decade. So Dom will be in the studio to tell us all about his new book and that amazing decade. So that in a little while. But first, comedian and political commentator Paul Cox is in the studio to go through some of the big stories of the day. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Kev. How you doing?
I'm all right. Now, this is not funny, obviously.
No,
let's talk about what's your take? I mean, I've been saying that this horrific rape case in Brighton, the details of which came distressingly out of court yesterday, what they did to that poor 33-year-old woman, 2 Egyptians, 1 Iranian, all asylum seekers staying in an asylum seeker hotel at our expense, and they subjected that poor woman to the most horrific ordeal, laughing at her while they defiled her. It was horrible. She said, "They've ruined my life." That was terrible. So again, they must be put into prison and they must throw away the key. I bet you they haven't been sentenced yet. I bet you they get 9 years. They'll be out in 5. However, during my show yesterday, while we're getting really furious and upset by this story, suddenly it emerges that one of them, the youngest, the 20-year-old, an Egyptian, was on the run from Egypt, wanted for murder, convicted of murder, I do believe. So he did a runner, and we didn't know. So what it highlights, underlines, is the fact that we let in all these young men, thousands and thousands and thousands of them every year, undocumented, and we don't know anything about them. Apparently he told lies, he gave them a false identity and all that. There's a sort of modicum of screening, security checks when these guys turn up here illegally. They go to Manston, but it's a system that doesn't really work, obviously. We need to do something about this. This has got to be the tipping point, isn't it? Because we are, it's not an exaggeration to say, we're importing a sex crime epidemic, and it has to stop.
Aren't we just? Yeah, look, normally I'm asked to add some levity to a situation, but I won't be doing that, certainly on this story, Kev. This is absolutely harrowing, and I say I wish this lady best with her recovery. I don't know if you ever recover from something like this.
She said she's haunted by their faces laughing at her.
But what's more disturbing for me, her personal story aside, is this is not the only time this has happened. This is not even the 10th time this has happened. This has happened tens, if not hundreds of times throughout this epidemic of just open borders policy, particularly under the latter years of the Conservatives and the Labour Party now. What I would love to see is this. I'd love to see every left-leaning activist, every left-leaning politician stand up and justify open borders to everybody else on the basis of this story. Because there are... If you ever talk to them about it, it's only a minority, it's only a minority. Well, I'm sorry if it's only a minority. We don't care. This is not a minority. This is actually tens, if not hundreds, and we have to clamp down on this. I want to see them justify it. I'd want to see what, and when they can't justify it, I'd want to see what they were going to do about it. And I don't think anyone should be in politics, particularly in Great Britain, if they support open borders. It's an epidemic of sexual crime. These people, I mean, the guy was on the run for murder. Of course he lied about his identity. They're all lying about their identity for different reasons. Not everybody is a murderer and not everybody is a sexual offender, but they are all illegal. They're all committing a crime. So they're immediately lying, they're immediately criminals, and we need to see proper action. I mean, extradition straight away, send him back to Egypt. It's a capital punishment murder in Egypt. Put him on trial there and see what happens.
Well, also, I totally agree, but it is time now. I mean, as I say, I keep labouring this point, but it's bizarre. Like all countries, Britain has a system, a passport system. Foreigners coming from abroad have to show their passport. Even Brits who've been abroad, returning to the country, show their passport. Yep. That's so we can document who's in this country. It's an issue of national security. All countries around the world have this system. The thing is that in Britain, there's a way you can get into this country without a passport. That is, you go to northern France, you climb on an illegal small boat, you cross the channel unlawfully, you criminally try to break into this country, and at that point we basically put you in a 4-star hotel or a disused military camp, and you're in the country, you're free to do whatever the hell you like, and that's it. No passport. That is mad. I say that if you've got no documents, if you've got no passport when you arrive on one of these small boats, you get detained. You've broken our laws. You're not going to be let in. And when we put you in a military camp, it's going to have big fences and gates, and we're going to lock them. And then we're going to process you, and then we're going to deport you.
Look, absolutely 100% back all of that. Now, my father-in-law for 40-odd years was an immigration officer. I think
my dad was an
and I know this because him and his colleagues have often said to me, have I worked with you? Because they know your dad.
How about that?
They know your dad. And Alp Mehmet's often someone who...
Alp does. Tony Smith, the border
Tony does as well. Look, if you ever spoke to any one of those guys, and these are all guys that were born in the sort of 40s, they're well into their 70s and 80s now, in order to become an immigration officer in the 60s and 70s, you had to have qualifications. You had authority to make decisions. This is a contemporary modern phenomenon, what's happening with border force now. There's no immigration anymore. Basically, back in the day, they were delegated powers to make decisions to stop nearly everybody of any kind like this ever coming into the country. That you just didn't see this sort of problem. Now we've weakened immigration down to what's become border force, and it's just opened up the borders entirely. People are coming across on the channel. They would have been sent back in the 80s, 90s and before.
They used to call it refused. My old man was always, probably yours as well, he was always going, yeah, we had to refuse, we had to refuse and refuse. Now, when they were refused, that means they weren't allowed into the country. They were just turned round, sent back to wherever they came from. We don't seem to do that anymore.
So I think it's really important to have that, because there'll be actual adults out there now in their 20s and 30s that probably didn't know that immigration was a very controlled system at one point. And, you know...
And they didn't wear uniforms either in those days.
No.
It's interesting, isn't it?
And they often travelled the world as well. They were very familiar with other cultures. They knew what to look out for. What we've got now is basically just a check-in service, like a hotel. You come over, you plead asylum, you'll go into the system, it'll take 2 years, and at the end of those 2 years, you'll almost certainly be allowed to stay in humongous, great numbers. And we've got a situation now, crime aside, crime's going through the roof, and they can manipulate statistics to make it look however they want. But just take a look at the benefit system. The biggest, if we look at child benefits, for instance, the 34% of child benefits go to Bangladeshis, which make up 0.9% of the population. A further 30 go to Pakistanis, who make up only a few percent of the population. So what we've got is an exponentially growing number of people that are constantly having children in this country claiming benefits that are at the bottom end of the demographic and are always going to be without work, because why would they? So alongside all the sexual assault that we've seen, we've got this other epidemic where the state is paying for something that it cannot afford. This has to end, because if it doesn't end, Kev, what we're going to end up with is just complete destruction of a system, and we're going to have anarchy. There's no way about it. There's no two ways about it.
Absolutely. I had Graham Stewart, the Tory MP, on earlier, and he said 100% if the Tories get in, good luck with that. But if they do, they're going to start detaining and deporting. You won't get into this country if you try to get in illegally. So they're going to change this system. They're going to leave the ECHR. We know about Nigel Farage and Reform UK's very strong position on this. The thing is about both those parties, Farage, Badenoch, Tories, Reform UK, they say never the twain shall meet. We will not form a pact. We can win the election on our own. A mega poll out today has revealed, oh no, you can't, that neither party will get enough seats to hold a majority in the Parliament. And in fact, unless the Tories and Reform UK form a pact, unless they unite before the next election, they will be beaten by a mad mosaic, a coalition of chaos. The Labour Party, of course, who will get very few seats, but enough. The Lib Dems, the SNP, and worst of all, Zach Palancy's crazy Green Party. So unless Farage and Badenoch form a pact between the Tories and Reform UK, you're going to have Zach Polanski will be a cabinet secretary in the next government. So while they keep saying, no, we never will unite, we never will form a pact, they're going to have to, aren't they?
I think so, and I think that does benefit the Tories. You often hear the Tories kind of play with the idea. You'll hear Nigel Farage say absolutely not, because he wants to see a complete differentiation between what he's created with reform and what was with the Tories. However, they are pretty much the same. They're two brands of the same flavour. And if you get that coalition of the wackiest politics we have ever known, then what the problems we just described would triple, quadruple, if not 10 times worse. Because take a look, don't take my word for it, just take a look at the Greens website and look at their top 10 policies. It is bananas. They would give every single one of those asylum seekers citizenship and access to work and benefits immediately. They would open up the borders. They would give them £1,600 per month. Now, that's going to go up exponentially, because when the rest of the world hears you can get in here without needing any documentation and you will be given £1,600 a month minimum, then they are all going to flood and we're going to get that problem tenfold. Look, I'm a bit of a purist. I'd like to see wholesale change. I'd like to see us come out of the ECHR. I think that that would have to be an agreement for any coalition to come out of that, because you cannot make any changes without it. But also, I think we might have to have step change. I think if reform cannot get a majority, then I think a coalition of the right is the right thing to do for the country as a way of a stepping stone towards whatever it is. It's a bit like when we came out of the last Labour government under Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, where we got this coalition with the Lib Dems and the Tories. It was kind of just a way out of that cycle, and I think perhaps this might have to be, which does mean that people are going to have to wait. It's not going to be 28, 29 when the problems cease. It's going to be 30s and 40s. You know, many of us aren't going to be around, but we've got to plan for the future, and I think this might be one way out of this doom cycle.
Well said. Let's talk about Prince Harry. He's just been unannounced. He turned up in Ukraine, made a big speech demanding that America honours its international obligations, its treaty obligations to help Ukraine. And you're thinking, who the hell are you to do this? Well, he's explained in an interview that this is who the hell he is, to lecture the world on his views on what America ought to do in Ukraine. By the way, outrageously undermining his father's, King Charles's, state visit to America, which starts on Monday. He's explained on what basis he feels that he has the right to make this speech, that he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not a very bright guy. It's way above his intellectual pay grade, but he explained why he's done it. It's an interview with ITV, because he was born to do this. I mean, as I keep saying, it's 2026, not 1526. Just because you're in the royal family, mate, you were not born to do this, and he should not be doing this. This is outrageous what he did in Ukraine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how much you support the Ukraine. I do support the Ukraine. This is of no help whatsoever. It really is of no help whatsoever. There's many other ways he can do it. He is not born to do this. This is the language of Meghan Markle. This is not the language of Harry at all. He's talking about this in some sort of existential way, where he's been, you know, he's tried everything else and failed at everything else, so it must be this he's born to do. Well, I'm sorry, but the geopolitics and the world platform is not the place for him to find out what he is born to do. He decided to leave the royal family. He has no place to make these impromptu presentations at all. It helps absolutely nobody. He's undermining his father. This trip to the US next week is incredibly important to rebuild the relationship between the UK and the US, which has been systematically destroyed by this Labour government and Keir Starmer. Let's not forget. Harry needs to just step back. Harry just needs to get away.
I say, Paul, let's not beat about the bush. I say he's too thick to make this kind of speech.
Yeah,
he's not exactly educationally qualified. He's not over-intellectual, is he, to say the least. This is way above his cerebral pay grade. He should shut the hell up and go back to smoking dope on the West Coast.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I totally agree. That might sound harsh to some people, but I totally agree. This is for the grown-ups, and Harry's not a grown-up. Harry's a lost child. It's obvious he's a lost child, and this is why he found safe harbour with this narcissist Meghan, because she's manipulated him into this position now where she's got him completely under her spell, and he's literally doing anything, leaving his own family behind, talking his own family down, making up sort of claims of racism that simply did not exist, and now he's born to become this peace envoy, which, like you say, on an intellectual basis, he's entirely underqualified to do.
Take his title away. He's crossed the line. Take his title away.
Well, if they did, then that would be the end of any of his dreams. And do you know what? You're absolutely right.
So do it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. There's something in me that always feels for Harry, but it's ebbed away, obviously. But I am in a minority, obviously. I can tell I'm in a minority.
He's crossed the line.
He has crossed the line with this, and I think that there's no way back.
I think it's disgusting what he did.
I don't think his brother's ever going to forgive him for anything that went before, let alone this.
Yeah, he's deliberately, I know it, he's deliberately undermining Charles's visit to America and talking about stuff that he does not understand, because frankly he's too dim, the dim Duke. Shut up. Paul, great to have you in the studio. Thank you so much. Let's go to break. When we come back, I'm going to play you a couple of clips in the next 40 minutes or so of some TV shows that I've got coming up tonight and over the weekend. And also, in a little while, we're going to be speaking to my friend, former Sun editor Dominic Mohand, about his new book. So much still to come. Stay tuned.
When I was growing up, a profound love of the British Empire, actually, and the good that Britain did for the world. And yet, to have that view today seems more of an exception than the norm.
Over the past week, I have been living on the coast of Belgium. Small boats leaving the Flemish coast to go to England. So far, 20 small boats that have left the Belgian coast to come to England.
When they saw that drunk woman at 5:45 a.m. in the morning, they just felt contempt for her. They took advantage of her. They are barbarians.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Former Sun editor, Ace Showbiz reporter Dominic Mohand is in the studio. We're going to talk about his new book, 1996, My Backstage Pass to the Wildest Year of Britain's Wildest Decade, in just a second. First, around about 7 o'clock, this goes live on YouTube. It is my show, A Plank of the Week. Here's a clip.
madness that he's now trying to sack everyone and blame everyone for the worst decision ever made by a UK Prime Minister is just hilarious. All of us could have said to him, are you really sure you want to get rid of a perfectly decent ambassador in America and switch in that guy? That guy who's got the nickname the Prince of Darkness because of all the scandals?
That's Alex Phillips, of course, next to Rafe Heidel-Mancu. That's Plank of the Week. Actually, I said it's going on at 7 o'clock. It's actually live now. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. Don't watch it now. Wait until the next show. Seriously, anytime you like, Plank of the Week, it is on YouTube for your enjoyment. Now, as I said, the great Dominic Mohan, legendary showbiz hack, journalist, editor of The Sun, no less, has written a fantastic book. Here it is. 1996, my backstage pass to the wildest year of Britain's wildest decade. What you're talking about here, Dom, is your times with Oasis, with Robbie Williams, talking to David Bowie, the Gallagher brothers, the Spice Girls. It was a hell of a decade, the Britpop decade, if you like. And I was just saying to you that so Dominic and I knew each other for a long time, but I went to the States in 1990 and I didn't get back till about 1999.
You missed a bit of a party.
And to coin a phrase, I went, what just happened? What did I miss? So you've written a book about it. Well, tell us about your backstage pass. It was a hell of a time, wasn't it?
It was, and it's quite significant what you say, because I think what happened then, the showbiz columns before I kind of joined in the mid-90s, they were full of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, all these unattainable kind of distant stars. And then suddenly, all the music that I loved, which was made by bespectacled men from Sheffield singing about damp bedrooms and things, was what the public were devouring. And I think Kurt Cobain from Nirvana had died in 1994, and that really opened the door for a lot of this Britpop kind of music that I'd seen a lot of these bands anyway, but it all kind of enmeshed and came together with pop music, obviously with the Spice Girls coming through in 1996, with rock music, but also with politics, because you had the rise of Tony Blair. You had an amazing art movement with Damien Hirst and Tracy Emin, and obviously you had the Euro 96 football championship, and football had really become, in that decade, from Italia 90 actually, football had become much more glamorous than it had. It was very much a lot of hooliganism. A lot of families didn't go to football before 1990. So you had a generation of sort of football rock stars were emerging that were suddenly in the celebrity columns, not just in the back pages.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because that's half the reason I came back from, because I went to LA, showbiz journalist, obviously, and I thought, well, let's go to the epicenter of world showbiz and I can make some money out there in LA, in Hollywood, and I did, and I had a good time as well.
But you mistimed your run.
No, I came back because increasingly, when I first got there, 1990, people like you would bite my hand off for anything to do with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone. You had an interview with them, you made a fortune. That was where it was at. Increasingly, through the 90s, due to what you're talking about in your excellent book, I could feel the centre of gravity switching to London, switching to Britain, and more through that decade, the British media became less and less interested in Hollywood and more interested in this country and the stars it was producing.
Absolutely, and I think one of the symbolic moments in '96 was the Brit Awards, because you obviously had Michael Jackson performing, and Jarvis Cocker got on stage and wiggled his bottom at him and got arrested for it, unbelievably. But that was quite
got a medal.
That was quite a significant sort of changing of the guard moment, really, I think. And actually what I found is that you'd go to Camden and you'd see all these people in the pubs, and they were completely attainable. You could talk to them. They weren't media trained. They didn't have a load of security guards or press people around them. And they were just great copy. And also the music was fantastic too.
And what was your, you were probably the premier showbiz journalist of that era. What was your relationship like with, I don't know, the Gallagher brothers, Robbie Williams? What was your relationship like? Because it can be fractious, can't it?
It can. I mean, I got pretty good access to people like Robbie Bobby and the Spice Girls, and then obviously the older generation sort of said, oh, we want a bit of this. So Bowie, McCartney, Pete Townsend and The Who, you know, they were very much, and Rod Stewart were trying to hitch a ride on the Britpop bus, if you like, because suddenly they were sort of being name-checked and they were fashionable again. With the Gallaghers, you never quite knew what you were going to get. I mean, with Liam, I've done great interviews with Liam, but he's also tried to take my trousers off in public and throwing drinks over me. So you never quite know which Liam you're going to get. And that's kind of the beauty of it. I think that's why people love reading about them, because they're so unpredictable.
I mean, any sort of standout moments from these hazy days, those amazing days?
Well, I mean, it's quite interesting. What I'm doing is really comparing then to now and how the media landscape and technology have really changed things. And, you know, for instance, I remember Oasis were opening one of their world tours in Tokyo, and I said to my editor at the time, I should cover this. And he said, well, are they paying for you to go? And I said, well, no, it doesn't really work like that with Oasis. And he wrote a cheque for probably, must have been over £10,000 for me and a photographer to go there on the off chance that we might get an interview. I checked into their hotel, I found out what hotel they were staying in, and I bumped into them in the bar, and Liam gave me a 2-hour interview.
Fantastic.
And it just wouldn't happen today. One, he would probably be surrounded by management and press officers who didn't want me to get anywhere near it. And two, a newspaper wouldn't have taken that chance that potentially I might get an interview. And I did, and it was great for me, it was great for Oasis, it was great for the record company, everyone was happy, you know. It was double-page spreads in the paper.
It's interesting, people like us, isn't it? That you never, with all these stars, you never quite know from one day to the next. You know, suddenly they'll be your best friend. Usually, if they've got a record to push or something, or a show to promote. But the next day, you know, you think, oh, I've really kind of connected there with the Gallagher brothers, and then the next day they can't stand the sight of you. It's interesting, isn't it?
I think it depends what context you see them in. I mean, this was a long way from home. It was in Tokyo. He was actually quite chuffed that we'd bothered to make the effort to go out there, to be honest. But obviously I remember seeing him at a Teenage Cancer Trust concert. I was actually chatting to Richard Ashcroft from The Verve, and suddenly somebody came up from behind and grabbed my privates really hard, actually, and I turned around and it was Liam Gallagher. And he was yelling obscenities at me, and then he scarpered off.
I assume he had a couple of drinks.
Yeah, I think so. And Richard Ashcroft said, is it always like this between you and Liam? And I said, yeah,
pretty much.
It kind of is, actually. You never quite know. You might ask after the family.
Did you find yourself getting close to any of the celebs during that era?
I think the one, I mean, I've got quite a lot of top 10s in the book where I talk about my top 10 sort of gigs and singles and albums, and also my top 10 interviewees as well. And actually Rod Stewart is my #1 because I mean, you've probably done stuff with Rod.
He's a good guy, yeah.
Just great fun, the way that he lives his life. He sort of lives his life as a lot of my readers would do if they had that kind of wealth. And he just, you know, he's not a sort of rehab bore or anything like that. He lives his life to the full, and he just gives great copy. And he really loved being, I christened him the King of the Lads, and he loved that, because he was almost like the forefather of that, really, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. The thing about Rod is, it's unusual, but it genuinely sounds like a cliche, but he's never been affected by his superstardom. He really, really has always kept his feet on the ground.
Yeah, and he knows how to play the media. He must have seen many people like you and I come and go over the decades. But I remember interviewing once, and he asked, the next day I was summoned to see him, and he said, there's something in the interview that I said that I don't really want you to put it in. Yeah. And it was quite a personal thing about one of his relationships. And I said, well, look, I can't really leave that out unless you can tell me something that trumps it. And he said, well, there is something I hadn't mentioned. I had thyroid cancer recently, and I nearly lost my voice forever. He said, would that be all right?
Deal.
Yeah, OK, that should do it.
So I'll tell you, I've got a great story about Rod Stewart. This is a true story. So my wife, Henrietta, who you know, she was walking down Pall Mall once. That's about, what, 7 or 8 years ago. Right, she's got a pair of high heels on. She's going to meet somebody at some flash restaurant, and as happens with women, she got her heel caught in the slit of pavement, and it sort of she's stuck, and she can't get her, you know, doing all this, trying to get her heel out and move on, and a black cab screeches to a halt, and a guy gets out and says, let me help you, and pulls her shoe up and sort of helps her sort of get up. And she said, "Oh, thank you so much." And she looked up, and it's Rod bloody Stewart.
What a gentleman.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously.
No, he's one of the good guys, I think.
So your book is on sale now?
It came out yesterday, actually.
£20, available at all the best...
all the usual places and online. And there's an audio book as well, voiced by myself, if people wish to hear my dulcet tones.
How fantastic. Well, Dominic, look, I am going to read it. I haven't read it yet, but I am.
I've interviewed Tony Blair for the book as well.
Oh, yeah, what did he say? I should have asked you that.
Quite interesting, yeah. I mean, there's a slight implied criticism of Keir Starmer from him.
Because there was the Britpop party...
Yes, of course. So he invited Noel Gallagher to number 10 in 1997 after he got elected. But he talks about how a country needs to be led like a football team or a business, and that he says that he doesn't feel much optimism in the country at the moment, which... you know, it's quite telling from him. And he did intervene, of course, about the Iran conflict, didn't he? Criticising Britain for not backing Trump.
And I think the contrast between now and then and what Tony Blair, consummate politician that he is, harnessed was this feeling, you know, caused by the Spice Girls, by Oasis, and all the other great stars, Robbie Williams, etc., of that era, that London and Britain, Manchester, was the epicentre of the world.
And on the up.
Yeah.
And it fills people with hope and optimism, and it's like he took the country with him.
And so that is... that's the essence of the book, to try to capture the spirit of that amazing age.
Yeah, absolutely, and really just to compare it to now. And obviously, you know, The Sun was selling something like 4.8 million copies some days in 1996, particularly on Grand National Day when the sales would rocket.
I remember.
Yeah, and you know, it was a beautiful moment because it was just 4% of people had internet access in that year, and mobile phone proliferation wasn't great. So actually, you know, in a way, I've interviewed Vernon Kay, the broadcaster for the book, and he wasn't famous in 1996, and he's really interesting because he talks about the Sun and the Mirror being the social media really of that time, particularly the showbiz columns, because people that's where they'd get their gossip and information from.
That's a very good point, that this was an era before Twitter.
Yeah, so he would say he would be reading the Bizarre column and see that Liam and Noel Gallagher were drinking in a pub in Primrose Hill, and him and his mates would go up there to see if they were there. But of course they'd been there 24 hours previous, so they never saw them. And if they were there, it would be on X or wherever within seconds.
My other story about the people in this book is I used to live in Belsize Park in North London. You know, the pub The Steels on Haverstock Hill, which was sort of my local, and a mate of mine came over and I said, "Oh, I'll tell you what's interesting about this. Would have been 1999, 2000, something like that." So just tell you what's interesting about this Steele's pub. It's Noel Gallagher's local, because he lives just round the corner.
He was on the next
Supernova Heights and all that. And yes, it's Noel Gallagher's local. I said, I've got my mate goes, "Oh, is it?" And at that point, the door burst open, and both the Gallagher brothers walked in. And they looked at us and went, "All right, lads," and then they got a couple of pints of Guinness. And so, you know, they, as you say, they were a different kind of celeb. You know, they did normal things, unlike...
Yeah, and the pub opposite, Chris Evans, the Haverstock Arms, obviously, he would hold court there. So these people were attainable, and they would talk to you. And I think that's kind of gone in a way, and I think the media's poorer for it.
Exactly right. So excellent. 1996, folks. My backstage pass to the wildest year of Britain's wildest decade by the great Dominic Mohan. Get yourself a copy. So I'm going to read it. I think it's going to be great. Thanks, Dom. Good to see you, mate. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to take your calls. 0344 499 1000. Give me a ring. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk That Next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to take your calls in just a little while, but I have another show, TV show, that I want to alert you to bring to your attention. It's What Just Happened, and that goes live here on Talk at 9 p.m. tonight. So if you're watching, carry on watching at 9 o'clock. So that's live on Talk, and as of tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow on YouTube, it becomes available, and you can watch it any time you want. If you are listening to the radio tonight, don't worry, it's very radio friendly, so you can carry on listening, or you can watch it if you can bear looking at my fantastically handsome features. So here is a clip from tonight's What Just Happened. You know, I think politically it's a really bad move to have an argument with the Pope, because the Pope represents 56 million Americans and 1.2 billion Roman Catholics around the world. It's bad politics. Don't row with the Pope. That said, Donald Trump said just a couple of days ago, she said, listen, I disagree with the Pope. I've got a right to do that. And I agree with him, don't you?
Yeah, of course he has. Of course he has. I mean, yeah, well, you can't, contradict the Pope or anything. Of course he can. And that's the good thing about Trump. He doesn't care who he offends if he says what he believes. And that's why people like him.
That's a great Ash Gould. Vanessa D'Ambrosio, second time she's ever been on the show. Australian girl, fantastic performance she put in, and that's me. That is What Just Happened, 9 p.m. tonight. Just carry on watching on Talk, or you can listen on the radio, and as of 10 a.m. tomorrow on YouTube, anytime you like, for the rest of all time. So there you go. Also, God, I'm plugging. I'm in plugging mode. It's TFI Friday Unplugged tonight. It's back on Channel 4. That's your favourite TV show from the 90s. Chris Evans and TFI Friday have returned to their original home on Channel 4. That's for the next 5 Friday nights, and that's at 11:05. Not exactly at 11 o'clock, but 5 past 11, reimagined for 2026 by Virgin Radio. TFI Unplugged features A-list interviews, music and classic bits from the TFI archives 30 years on. I watched it last week. It's really good. It's really good. So watch TFI Unplugged tonight at 11:05 on Channel 4. This week's guests include Chris Marshall, Emma Laird, and from the archives, Paul McCartney. Last week, the archive interview was an extraordinary chat with David Bowie, the late, great David Bowie. Tonight, the archive chat is with Paul McCartney, with Macca from the Beatles. So, quite a night. What just happened? Then TFI Friday. Hey, I've sorted your entire Friday night out. You're welcome. Right, let's go to the phone, shall we? Let's talk to Ian in London. Hello, Ian.
Hi, Kev. I'll tell you something. The big thing at the moment for children's toys is something called mystical dumplings.
Mystical dumplings.
Dumplings, right? And what it is...
Where are we going with this, Ian?
Yeah, you're here.
Okay.
It's like, when we were kids, there was like the Kinder Egg, where you had the chocolate and then you had the toy inside, but it was a mystery toy.
I remember them. Yeah.
Right, this is a sort of follow-on to that. But it's like with politics at the moment. You've got the left side with Zach Polanski, or whatever he wants to call himself this week, with all their
David Paulden,
yeah, the whole sort of thing. You've got like Ed Miliband also off his head, and then you've got the Conservative side with Reform. The thing that they've got to get across, and they've got to work together. They have got to work together because they've just got no way of actually being able to sort of bring this country into a little bit of more sensible side than if everybody goes the other way.
I'll tell you what, Ian, it goes like this. Right, there's a weird thing about politicians. It's like a performative ritual for them. Every time you ask them, would you do a pact? Will you get together with another party? They go, absolutely not. We wouldn't even remotely think about it. And if when push comes to shove, when the chips are down, they do it every single day of the week. Do you remember the very unlikely coalition between the Tories and the Lib Dems? You know, so they all say this. So at the moment, Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage are saying never in a month of Sundays, not until hell freezes over, would we even think about a pact, an electoral pact. Now, come the moment when the election is close and it looks as if they don't stand a chance of winning unless they get together, they will get together. And it may come down to mathematics after the election that no one party has got an overall majority. So the Tories or Reform or Labour or the Greens, none of them have got an overall majority. So at least two parties are going to have to form a coalition in order to have that overall majority. You may well find after the next general election, literally as the results come in, there's going to be this frantic horse trading between Labour, Lib Dems, Greens and the SNP on the left, this mad mosaic, the coalition of chaos, and the Tories and Reform on the right, all desperately trying to get the numbers to give them an overall majority. And what we do know is if the Tories and Reform do come to their senses and form some kind of pact to fight off this mad mosaic of left-wing lunatics, that they will have the numbers in order to command an overall majority. So with a bit of luck, that's what will happen, because if the mad mosaic, the coalition of chaos, which will involve Zach Polanski being a cabinet secretary, if they get into power, just pack your bags and leave the country, right?
It would have to be. It would be like a bathtub which hasn't even got a plug in the hole.
Yeah.
You might, like you've got like the other one. Can you imagine Sultana?
Yeah. I mean, this is what will happen. This is what. Well, I mean, I'm not sure Sultana would actually make it, but the Greens, those lunatics, those idiots, they will have to. You know, Zach Polanski will probably become a cabinet secretary. Can you imagine that? And then you'd have Ed Davey. I mean, I wouldn't let that guy run a bath, let alone the country. It's just doesn't bear thinking about. So I totally agree with you, Ian. A Reform and Tory pact may be on the cards, and if necessary, if one of those parties can win outright, then good luck to them. I mean, they keep saying they can. Farage keeps saying he can. But I suspect it's unlikely. But if they can win an overall majority, great. But if not, for God's sake, put the country before party and form a coalition, because we can't have Zach Polanski being a cabinet secretary. I would literally get on the next plane out of here if that happened. Ian, really good call. Totally agree with you. Ian in London. By the way, 7 o'clock, Peter Cardwell's on holiday this week. So Duncan Barks is standing in for Peter. He'll take you through from 7 until 9 p.m. With the evening exchange. And then, of course, as I keep saying, it's my programme, What Just Happened. So Duncan Barks will be in the studio in 10 minutes or so to let you know what he's got lined up for you. In the meantime, we're going to break now. When we come back, I'll read some more of your messages, take some more calls. I don't know if we've got any WhatsApp voice notes, but if we have, we'll play them. So all of that still to come. Stay where you are.
I was growing up, a profound love of the British Empire, actually, and the good that Britain did for the world. And yet, to have that view today seems more of an exception than the norm.
Over the past week, I have been living on the coast of Belgium. Small boats leaving the Flemish coast to go to England. So far, 20 small boats that have left the Belgian coast to come to England.
When they saw that drunk woman at 5:45 a.m. in the morning, they just felt contempt for her. They took advantage of her. They are barbarians.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm going to go to the phones in just a little while. A few messages that have been sent in. Texts. Scott said about Prince Harry, would it be easier if the press didn't follow Harry? No press, no coverage, no tour. Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it, Scott? But it just doesn't go like that. You know, he's a figure of interest. I think he's a fool. And I think his behaviour in the Ukraine is disgraceful, but you can't say it's not newsworthy. I'm afraid it is. But it would be nice if we ignored him, but that's not going to happen, I'm afraid. Same for Meghan. Now, Margaret, our favourite texter, she's sent one in. This is talking about Graham Stewart, the Tory MP I had on earlier. She says, Margaret says, Graham Stewart, very impressed. That was a great interview. Thank you. She said, and Kev, Graham shares my birthday. That's a vote winner for a start. Yeah, absolutely, Margaret. Happy birthday, whenever your birthday is. Rob says, this is... I don't know what he means. If he is meeting his allies, did anyone actually turn up? Oh, that'll be Starmer. Has he got any allies? But, you know, he's at Chequers. Might be his last weekend in the Prime Minister's country retreat. He might not be able to use that for very much longer because he might not be Prime Minister by this time next week. He's having a crisis meeting up there. To decide what to do, but there is this kind of big end of days feeling about him, isn't there? And this is Rosie in Shropshire said, let's face it, Meghan probably timed it and told him to do it, no accident. Yeah, I think that's a good point, Rosie. She'd love all this. Yeah, what he's doing, what he did with that speech is to undermine the King's official state visit to America, which starts on Monday. You know, he's getting involved in matters he doesn't understand. He's getting involved in matters that are way above his pay grade. And how dare he say, I was born to do this? No, you weren't, mate. You just weren't. What's going on about leadership, isn't he? You know, he's a really hierarchical guy, you know. Leadership. He made a documentary about leadership. What a ridiculous concept. Right, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Robert in Hertfordshire. Hello, Robert.
Hi, Kev. I've got a couple of conspiracy theories to share with you. But before that, I looked at that animal, the rapist photograph smirking in the mail today.
Yeah, what did he have to laugh about, eh?
Well, you wait till I get hold of him in the showers. You know, he won't be
yeah,
laughing
I
about
mean, I think they may have a hard time in prison, although they're Muslims, and most of our jails are very Muslim-dominated, so you never know. But I hope they have a very hard time. But who knows? Who knows?
They used to have a section 43 where all the, excuse my language, all the police informers and the nonces were all kept together. Okay, whether that's still...
Well, you know, I can't go there. What else is it you wanted to say, Robert?
Okay, right.
Bearing in mind that I pour a massive bucket over most conspiracy theories. So
no,
go on.
Well, I'm not that type of person.
Yeah, you don't believe in conspiracy theories, but here's a conspiracy theory, right?
Well, it's just my opinion into it.
Okay, go on then. What's your opinion?
I think all these migrants, this is what's happened with the rape in Brighton. This is all to do with creating civil unrest. This is what the government...
What you mean that? Well, that's hardly the case. You mean the government policy to let them all in?
Well, yes, because...
I mean, you can't say that these 3 rapists in Brighton were a part of some kind of conspiracy. They didn't do it in order to create civil unrest, did they?
No, let's take that out of the equation, OK? Because that's belittling my conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
OK, I think what the government are waiting for is for the general public to react. And sooner or later, they're going to react. And that will give them a chance to clamp down even more. It's Marxism through the back door. It's Marxism through the back door. They know what's going to happen. It won't be long before... Listen, I'm not instigating violence and nothing like that, but sooner or later, the British people are going to have enough. And it's going to be like Ireland.
Yeah.
And then that will give them a chance to crack down even more.
To arrest everybody, do another Southport. It's possible, but I think it doesn't really go like that. I just think we are stuck in a kind of chaos. Robert, listen, I've got to move on, but thanks for a good call. Robert in Hertfordshire. Let's quickly talk to Scott in Essex. Hi, Scott.
Hello. Can you always go to how hard is it to understand? If these people come in,
this line is I can't hear a word, Scott. Sorry, going to have to cancel this call. Give me a call next week. Let's talk to Georgina in London. Hi, Georgina.
Hi, Kevin. Listen, I wanted to ask your advice on something. I've been giving it some thought. I mean, I've been listening to the horrific details of this young woman being downgraded by these 3 horrific men.
Yes.
And let's face it, there's
excuses for men. They're not men, they're animals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you said it, darling. You said it. But let's face it, there's probably thousands of these attacks and rapes on our women and little girls throughout the country that have been reported and documented. Would it be possible to sue the government, Kevin, on a civil capacity, as it's because of their
could try
negligence?
it. That's not about endangering the public. I mean, I think that certainly there's a very strong case to say there's a huge abrogation of duty on the part of this government with their migration policies. You know, it's not an exaggeration to say that we're in danger of importing a sex crime epidemic. More and more of these cases are coming up, like what we saw in Brighton, and we are letting in people that we know nothing about. You know, we let in these two Egyptians and an Iranian. It turns out one of the Egyptians is on the run for murder. We didn't know. So
it's horrendous. It's horrendous. I mean, at the point we are now, Kevin, they're going to be advertised on the television. You know, like they did with "Have you had an accident? Call us on this number." Because there's so many. No, there's so many of these attacks, and you'll do it on a no-win, no-fee basis because the government haven't got a leg to stand on. They have failed in their first rule of duty as government to protect the population. They failed. So, in a court of law...
Sue them for negligence or something. Yeah, but I think it would be an interesting idea because I do think this government is seriously guilty of negligence. Their policies, their migration policy is dangerous. It's dangerous to this public. I mean, again, I keep labouring this point, but we, as a matter of policy, as a nation, let in every year thousands and thousands and thousands of young men from very foreign, different cultures, Afghanistan, Sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, about whom we know nothing. We know nothing about them. And yesterday we discovered that not only has one of them turned out to be a rapist, he's also a murderer. And we didn't know. So negligence on the part of the government, I think you'd have a strong case. Very interesting idea, that, Georgina. Maybe we'll get together and we'll sue Keir Starmer, who hopefully this time next week won't be the Prime Minister. Georgina, thank you for finishing the show in your inimitable style. Have a lovely weekend. Let's talk next week. Georgina, the great Georgina from London. Duncan Bucks is in the studio. How are you, mate?
You make me laugh. I was struggling through Wandsworth earlier because Sadiq Khan's made it impossible to drive anywhere in London.
Tell me about
and your description of Harry as, who does he think he is? Some ginger bloke living on the west coast of America who smokes dope. Made me laugh. Very good.
Well, it's about right,
isn't it? Spot on. I thought I couldn't do any better
Tell
myself.
me why that is not accurate. It is.
Yeah, I thought it was
What have you got lined up?
we're going to continue talking about uniting the right. You know, who'll be the next government can we afford to have this nasty idea of a coalition of Lib Dems and Greens and possibly even the SNP and Labour in Downing Street? Again, we're going to look at that. Also asking the question, who will replace Starmer? Because the clock is ticking. And where do you stand on self-service tills?
Do you know what? You mean that, self-checkout? I always said this. I mean, I use them. I quite like them. But I always said, is this wise? Because when they got rid of supermarket checkout girls, ladies, shouldn't say that, I suppose, but
you'll be cancelled.
Let's face it, I'll be cancelled. Let's face it, they usually were female. Usually nice ladies you had a chat with,
Always
when they got rid of them, I thought, well, what's to stop people just walking out of the supermarket? And now we've discovered the answer to that is nothing.
So the chairman, can we use the word chairman anymore? Or has that been banned?
Chairperson.